What's going on, fellow A-Plusters? It is I, your host, as always, Adam Perez, back once again with a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC, television, and movie news, streaming live for you guys over on our YouTube page. You can also catch us live over on Facebook today, as well as Twitch for you gamers out there. And of course, towards the end of this episode or later on today or first thing tomorrow, we will be dropping this episode for you guys over on Spotify if you like your audio versions of the show, or wherever you certainly listen to your audio podcast. So definitely go ahead and check us out over there as well. But happy Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. It is fantastic to see everybody here as we wrap up your weekend. We got a pretty big show, if you ask me. I think we got some great topics that we're going to be diving into. Of course, we're going to be getting into some honorable mentions. We got our 6 topics, and of course, your live viewer questions. And of course, we're definitely joined today by our special guest, James Bethea Jr. He is, in fact, a writer and producer as well. So it's going to be really fantastic to kind of get his perspective on really all the strikes that are certainly happening right now, with the SAG-Aftra strike that just happened this week, along with the WGA strike, and then a couple other topics that we're going to be diving into today as well. So it should be pretty fun. But in the meantime, we do have our round table of nerds here. Good old Indy Uchiha, as well as Stuart Branscombe joining us. What's going on, fellas? How's everybody doing today, man?
It's early.
It's early. What time is it where you're at, man? It's noon. You just wake up like 5 minutes ago?
Yes.
He's like, I just threw on my pajamas. You're probably still in your boxers over there. It's okay. What about you, Stuart? How you doing, man? Oh, I think you're muted.
There we go. Yeah, I'm doing really good. Real busy week at work, but this is like the perfect way to end that week. The perfect way to start my weekend, basically. Sundays and Mondays are my weekend, so this is always like the perfect way to start that weekend. So, and especially excited that we have a writer here for today to talk about the strike going on, getting that whole another perspective. So it's gonna be a good show.
Yeah, I mean, we've been following it over the past several weeks or months since it happened back in May for the writers, and we've been trying to see how all the everything was going to fall when you had the directors, I think, trying to come up to an agreement, and then we were expecting the actors guild to go ahead and come up with some sort of agreement as well. And now you see the state of Hollywood right now. It's kind of been upheaval a little bit, so it should be interesting to see how everything goes in the next couple of weeks, months, towards the end of the year when it comes to these strikes. But considering the fact that we have been talking about it the past couple of months, I was just like, it's about time that we actually bring somebody in that knows a little bit more about it than we certainly do. So should certainly be a fun episode. Let's get some shout outs here to some people that are in the live chat today. We got Enrique Perez certainly in the house. What's up, Enrique? He says San Diego Comic-Con is just days away, and also Deadpool 3 had to stop production because of the writer's strike, and they might move production to another location. Plus saw the Blue Beetle trailer. Yeah, we'll definitely be getting into all of that for you today, Enrique. We also got Datila in the house as well. And of course, listen, guys, if you're in the live chat, if you're watching us live, wherever you're watching it from, hit that like button. It definitely does go certainly a long way. If you want to share these videos, definitely please go ahead and do so. We only continue to grow because of you guys. So thank you very much for you guys continuing to come through each and every week. But guys, let's get into some honorable mentions, shall we? Let's go ahead and kick off this show today, man. Do you guys have any honorable mentions you guys want to bring up first at all? In fact, I should probably get my honorable mentions ready too. What you guys got?
Come to be last because I got to get a photo for this one.
You got anything over there, Indy?
Nothing other than honestly trying to get the people, letting you guys know Bleach and Jujutsu Kaisen is back. You guys need to check it out. Top tier anime. Come check it out. Reviews be coming up weekly. I mean, come on, man. Come on.
I need to catch up on Jujutsu Kaisen, but like from what I've seen of it, I've seen like the first 2 or 3 episodes. It definitely looks like a really fun anime.
Yeah, the animation is beautiful. There's a lot of people put a lot of work, you know what I'm saying, into what's going on. It's definitely worth checking out.
And what you got for us, Stuart?
We have a new Godzilla movie coming, and this one is not by Legendary. This one, oh my god, that kitty is so adorable. Dude, I'm jealous because we're not allowed to have pets in our apartment, but I want one so badly. You have no idea. Anyway, so we have a new Godzilla movie, and this one is not from Legendary. This one is actually coming to us from Toho for the first time since Shin Godzilla. But from what I understand, this one is actually meant to launch a franchise, so it's not going to be like and done. This is going to be like basically a reboot to a new Godzilla universe. But the title is weird. It's called Godzilla -1. They released a teaser for it. Very similar in a lot of ways to Shin Godzilla, in the sense that it looks like they're really focusing more on the civilian side of things. And so Godzilla looks huge because of this, because we're focusing from the civilian perspective. We're not necessarily focusing it on like kind of the bigger camera angles that make kind of Godzilla look smaller in some other movies. But that's only from like the 30-second teaser that we got. But it looks really cool. It's interesting that now even Japan is starting to go with the CG route for Godzilla. So it seems like the days of people in rubber suits are officially gone.
I gotcha. And not going with that tokusatsu model so much anymore, huh?
Yeah.
I will say I was a big fan of Shin Godzilla. I really enjoyed what they were doing with that. But I am interested to seeing what this Godzilla -1 is going to be all about. I wasn't sure if it was like a continuation, like a sequel from Shin Godzilla, but this is like another reboot, if you will, right? Is that what you're saying, Stuart?
Yeah, so no connections to Shin Godzilla whatsoever. It's all going to be in its own world. It might so like what Godzilla movies tend to do a lot is whenever they reboot the universe, it's always a sequel to the first one, but ignoring everything else in between. So I feel like there's a good chance we might get that with Godzilla -1.
I get you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I definitely did check out the trailer. If you guys haven't done so, I don't know if it's up on our Facebook page or not. I know the poster is, but I don't know if we've had the opportunity to post the trailer as of yet. So if anything, we'll try and get that up for you guys later on today. But definitely try and check it out on YouTube for yourself if you're a big Godzilla fan. A couple other honorable mentions I wanted to bring up as well. We did get some brand new photos for you guys this week, coming to us from our Facebook page here. Daryl Dixon, the upcoming The Walking Dead spinoff, is going to be here, I think, dropping this upcoming September. They did give us a teaser trailer sometime a couple weeks ago, but we're actually getting our opportunity to see Norman Reedus as Daryl Dixon, this time in France, as they wind up posting some brand new photos from the upcoming series this past week. How are you guys feeling about this? Is there any momentum for you guys? Are you hyped for this? I mean, The Walking Dead has been going on for years now. I don't even know if it's been a decade already. Maybe it has. But Daryl is still moving and grooving, guys, and he's going to be in France in this upcoming spinoff here. We also have the other spinoffs show Dead City. And then we're also looking forward to Rick and Michonne. So The Walking Dead is far from over, but we did have some brand new photos. What do you guys think of these?
I mean, the production looks really big on these. I think like
it does.
If it wasn't for the fact that I'm so behind on The Walking Dead because I stopped after they, quote unquote killed Rick off, but then like didn't. That was the last episode that I'd seen. So if it was for the fact that I'm so behind on the show, I would probably be really intrigued by this. I also like that it looks like Daryl is meant to be kind of a mentor to some younger people, and given their age, it's kind of safe to say, and given how long we've been in the zombie apocalypse, it's safe to say that they're probably kids that have grown up thinking that this is a normal thing. So it's going to be kind of an interesting perspective to explore in the Walking Dead universe.
What about you, Indy? How are you feeling about the photos that you've gotten so far? And are you hyped for this upcoming show at all?
The photos that I got, no. I mean, I like them. The hype, I'm not really. I felt the same way about Dead City. It's something where I have to see where the writing is going, what they're going to do with it before I end up getting too excited, because I don't want to be let down, because The Walking Dead is something that I hold near and dear to my heart. You know what I'm saying? Walking Dead and Game of Thrones are two things that started around the same time, you know what I'm saying, that have been going and been a staple in pop culture, you know, since it started back with the comics and the books going into what we got now. So I'm just looking forward to seeing what they do with the character of Daryl, who was made specifically for the TV show to start off with. So there's no background lore, anything to really check into seeing where this is going to go. It's all new material, you know, and everything like that. It's really, we don't know how this character is going to end up. And out of all the characters on the show, he has had the most growth other than, you know, Negan. Like he's been through the most, had the most change, has been there since the beginning. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that.
And people love Daryl. Does he still have like the biggest following out of majority of the cast? I know people used to love Daryl when Walking Dead started.
I mean, it's to me, it's like Daryl, Michonne, and Rick neck and neck. When it comes to popularity of characters, the only characters more popular than the three of them is Glenn, and they killed him off.
Yeah, so unfortunately, yeah, we miss you, Glenn. We miss you. But yeah, no, I definitely see both sides. Like, you know, Stuart. Well, I should say, Indy. You know, for me, I fell off of The Walking Dead also. But when I think of this particular show, I'm just not super hyped for it. The trailer hasn't really done too much for me. Maybe if I see like an actual full official trailer, maybe it might change my perspective on it. But I'm just not feeling the hype behind it so much. Cool photos, and I am eager to kind of see what they dive into. But considering that I've fallen off of The Walking Dead years ago, you know, it seems okay. I feel like I find myself more interested in other content that they're going to do, like Rick and Michonne. I'm really excited for that. And you had the opportunity, Stuart, Indy, to check out Dead City, didn't you? And you really liked it, right?
Dead City is really good, but I think Dead City they're doing some of the same tropes. I feel like some of the development of characters they went backwards. Like some stuff didn't happen, especially when it comes between the relationship of Negan and what is her name? I always forget. Maggie. Yeah, between Negan and Maggie, I feel like they took a step back between that relationship, especially after everything that resolved in the original series. But seeing almost classic Negan back, seeing him have to revert to that character every time there's something major, you know what I'm saying, going on, you know, almost having that little pig moment in the first episode. It makes it very worth, you know what I'm saying, much worth watching, because I feel like Negan got so stripped down and neutered by the end of The Walking Dead that he wasn't the same character. He was closer to being like Rick, like original Rick, than he was as the Negan we were introduced to. But that was great character development in that character itself, that you understood why they went that way.
No, I feel you. So we'll see, guys. But Daryl Dixon does drop this upcoming September on AMC Plus, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely go ahead and check it out if you can. Another honorable mention here, real quick. We did get ourselves some brand new set photos from the upcoming Deadpool 3 movie. Now, unfortunately, production for the movie has in fact halted as of this week, but before doing so, we did get ourselves some really cool new set photos here, as we got Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds hugging each other out. I think, if anything, what a lot of people have been loving from some of these photos is the fact that we actually have ourselves a comic book accurate costume for Wolverine in a really long time. A lot of people have been asking for it, and it's finally here. But they wind up dropping some set photos, and this is probably one of my favorites here, honestly. Get an opportunity to see the old 20th Century Fox logo. This very much reminds me of what is it, the Void, or I don't know, I can't remember where it was from, what the name of the place was from in Loki, when was it Loki gets trapped in that world where like everything's been destroyed or enveloped, right? Like the multiverses that have been destroyed. I'm wondering if I think they called it the Void. I'm not quite sure, but considering the fact that we see a 20th Century Fox logo there, I think is pure genius, if you ask me. And then we get the opportunity to see some other photos here of Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds on set, getting ready for Deadpool 3. What are you guys' thoughts on these set photos? Anything that really stands out to you?
Like you said, the fact that there might be that cool tie-in with Loki, because that's exactly what I was thinking too when I saw that whole set piece. It looked just like that one scene from the Loki TV series. Love the costume, of course, very comic book accurate. They finally can pay off that joke from the first X-Men movie. What would you prefer, yellow spandex? Here we go. We finally have them.
Comes full circle, right?
Yeah.
I love it. What about you, Indy? How you feeling about these photos, man?
Deadpool kills the Fox universe.
Yeah, is that the
That's
storyline they're going
honestly
with?
that's the vibes that I'm getting from it. Um, I'm I try not to think too much when it happens to be a Deadpool movie. It is more of sit back and enjoy the ride type things.
Okay.
But I really trust Ryan Reynolds with his love of the character and where it's going to go. And I'm just really curious to see how this is going to tie into Disney itself and what they have going on with their Marvel universe.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see it, man. They've and there's plenty more set photos out there, some set videos out there for you guys to certainly check out. We got a plethora of fantastic news this past week. I was not expecting to see these set photos whatsoever, but yeah, I'm a big fan of the costume. I think the costume looks great. I mean, as great as you could possibly make a yellow and blue costume look for Wolverine. I am going to be curious to see if they actually give him sort of the mask to go along with it. We haven't seen any of those in any of the set photos here. There's even like some set videos of them doing some wire work and things like that for a big action piece. So this has me really excited. I think Ryan Reynolds definitely knows what he's doing here. Him and Hugh Jackman have been wanting to work with each other for years, really coming off of some, I don't know if I would call them successful, but enjoyable movies of Ryan Reynolds teaming up with Sean Levy, who's going to be, I believe, being the director for this Deadpool 3 movie as well. So it seems like it's all coming together, man. But we're getting some great glimpses that I think are going to get people even more hyped. For some people that are feeling kind of down on the direction of the MCU right now, I'm hoping that this certainly resuscitates them a little bit and gets them hyped again for what's certainly to come down the pipeline. But good stuff there when it comes to Wolverine and Deadpool 3.
We do have one more if you have time.
What you got?
The FTC trial when it comes to Microsoft and the Activision of Blizzard. Microsoft has won. So that means that they have until July 18th to be able to close the deal. I'm excited about this because I enjoy Microsoft, although I do enjoy Sony too. But the big thing coming out of that is that there is a deal that Microsoft and PlayStation have in place in order to keep the legendary Call of Duty video game on Sony consoles. And I'm just curious if it's similar to the deal that Microsoft originally offered in order to have the game on PlayStation for the following 10 years and able to go on PlayStation Plus as well. So I'm curious to see what that specific details of that deal to see if it's for the future of Call of Duty or if it's just for the next 10 years.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Yeah. So keep us posted on that, Indy, for sure. Because I'm sure definitely a bunch of gamers definitely want to know how that's going to turn out. But Microsoft, you said, won that case?
Yes, they won the case, which a lot of people are upset with the FTCs. They feel like they just wasted taxpayer dollars.
Oh, damn.
Because it shouldn't have been a reason not to let Microsoft acquire Activision Blizzard.
That. Yeah, man, that's pretty big. That's pretty big. I will throw in one more honorable mention here, and then we'll wrap up. Miss Marvel is back in the news. Miss Marvel, well, not only is the star Aman Vellani, who plays Kamala Khan, she's actually going to be writing a upcoming Miss Marvel comic. I think that's actually pretty interesting. But the big news is that they are actually going to be airing the Disney Plus series of Miss Marvel on ABC. They are setting it up to August 5th. The first 3 episodes will air. And then the final 3 entries will be put on August 12th. So it looks like they're trying to get a little bit ahead of the upcoming Marvel's movie, because we had just talked about this last week, I believe, the idea that you've kind of now given general audiences sort of more homework to do. And if you go into the Marvels and you don't have a Disney Plus account, or if you've never had the opportunity to even watch Miss Marvel or even WandaVision, you might be kind of confused going into the Marvels as to what's all transpired if you're not watching anything that's not movie related. So it looks as though Disney is in fact going to be releasing the Miss Marvel series again on ABC. So it's available for a wide range of audiences. August 5th, the first 3 episodes will be dropping, and then the last 3 episodes, August 12th. Now, the article was stating that they may be doing this to kind of fill in some slots due to the strikes that are certainly happening as of right now. But they also emphasize the idea that it's probably an incentive to go ahead and get people very much familiar with the character before the Marvels. What do you guys think about that plan?
I honestly think it's a smart move. I implore them. Is that the word I'm supposed to? I'm trying to use big words. I'm not awake yet. That I not only Miss Marvel, but I would really like them to do this with Loki as well, in order to get people. Because one of the things that I don't like that is coming out is the negativity about Disney content that comes out. When, like, I'm okay, you can have some negativity with the movies. I understand how some people feel, but the backlash that movies like Ant-Man and other things are catching, they really shouldn't be catching that backlash because they're actually well, you know what I'm saying, written and produced movies. None of the television shows, the Disney Plus shows, have missed. None of them have been bad. They've all, you know what I'm saying, they've all been good in their own right. Miss Marvel especially, a top 3, you know what I'm saying, Disney Plus show as far as Marvel, you know what I'm saying, when it came on, and it needs to be as front of many eyeballs as possible. And the fact that it is such a big show to tie into what's going on in the future of the MCU, you want to make sure that people are up to date on what's going on, even though they're going against everything that they told us when they told us that we wouldn't have had to watch these shows in order to follow along what's going to go with the MCU. But they say the same thing about comic books, you know, oh, you don't have to buy these, you know what I'm saying, spinoffs in order to know what's going on. But yeah, I would like to know how Wolverine lost his eye when he pops up without an eyeball in one of the cartoons, you know what I'm saying, one of the comics. In the comic beforehand, he had an eyeball. So yeah, I would like to know what's going on. So but I'm for it. This young lady deserves to have as much fanfare as possible. You know what I'm saying? I feel like she should have Jenna Ortega level, you know what I'm saying, fanfare. But she doesn't have that because she hasn't been able to be in front of as many eyes, you know, as possible as Jenna Ortega has.
What do you think about it, Stuart? You think it's a good move?
Yeah, I think it's a very smart move on Disney's part. And, you know, even if you have Disney Plus, it's still a good way to remind people, hey, this movie's coming out. Here's a show that you may want to catch up with before before watching that movie. It's something I think they really should have done with WandaVision and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, because I feel like that's another movie. If you go into not watching WandaVision, you're going to be like, okay, what happened with Wanda in between movies? Because I'm a bit lost here.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think this is a brilliant move on their part. I really hope it is rather successful, and I hope they get a ton of views on ABC for this because, yeah, I think Iman Vellani is going to definitely be a star, and I think she's definitely going to showcase that even further when it comes to the Marvels. And so, really, there's a lot of backstory for this character before heading into that big movie. So I do think that this is a brilliant move on their part. So we'll see how it comes along. But guys, again, August 5th. August 12th, Miss Marvel. If you don't have Disney Plus or if you're not sharing accounts with anybody, you want to check it out, definitely go ahead and certainly do so before the movie drops. But other than that, guys, that will do it for our honorable mention segment. Listen, if you guys have not had the opportunity to go ahead and submit your live viewer questions over, feel free to go ahead and submit them over if you'd like to. I do believe if you go over to our YouTube page, click on that community tab, there is in fact a live viewer question post for you guys. So you can go ahead and submit your question over, and then we'll get to it towards the end of the episode. And whatever we don't get the opportunity to talk about live with you guys, we'll go ahead and put in its own separate video later on in the week. So feel free to go ahead and submit your live viewer questions down below. So fellas, are you guys ready to get into our main topics for the day?
Hell yes.
All right, let's do this. And I'll also go ahead and introduce our brand new special guest as well. Guys, listen, Hollywood is on strike right now. There is a lot that is certainly going on. Unfortunately, you've got the WGA currently on strike. And this week, the SAG-Aftra also went on strike as well. Fran Drescher, along with the rest of, well, maybe not the rest, but the rest of the crew there wind up giving a very impassioned press conference this week, letting everybody know exactly why they're certainly going on strike and really what they're certainly fighting for. before. And so this week, guys, I really wanted to go ahead and dive into this a little bit to really showcase just everything that's certainly happening for you guys. And instead of coming from our mouths, we decided to go ahead and bring in a special guest that I'm very happy to go ahead and introduce to you. His name is James Bethea Jr. He is, in fact, a writer as well as a producer. He does come from Harlem, New York City, if I'm not mistaken, along with, I believe, the time he also went to Bronx High School of Science. Later in his career, he eventually went ahead and created a Nickelodeon show that I used to love watching as a kid called Nick Arcade. It was very, I always thought it was something that was certainly ahead of its time. Definitely sucked me in, to certainly say the least. I don't know if you guys ever remember this logo whatsoever, but this was like my childhood. But he was definitely one of the co-creators for that particular show. He also went on to become head of programming, I believe, for another channel you guys might have been familiar with in the time, UPN, that carried a ton of hit shows at the time, Star Trek Voyager, Moesha, just to certainly name a few. And he was executive in charge for a lot of those shows. He is also a member of WGA. He is also a member of SAG. He has also at a time been an executive for the AMPTP. And he has also had a couple of run-ins with Iron Man himself, as he has in fact been in the first Iron Man as well as the second Iron Man movie as well. So I guess if there is one question I probably have to ask him when he comes in is, did you know Rhodey was a Skrull? That's probably one of the questions I would have to ask him at this point in time. But ladies and gentlemen, introducing James Bethea.
Hey, hey guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Great, man. Great. Thanks for having me.
It's fantastic, Jimmy. I'm going to call you Jimmy if that's okay.
Sure.
Anybody else, feel free to call him James, Mr. Bethea, however you want to refer to him as. But it's so good to have you here, man. Look, I love you, Jimmy. You're my cousin. Can I give a quick story real quick?
Of course.
I have a core memory in my life, and I'm kind of curious if you remember this also. But I remember as a young kid, I don't remember how old I was, but I remember, I can't remember if I came over to your apartment one day, if you were watching me, maybe my mom had to work or I was just hanging out with you. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But you had a bookshelf of like comic books. And they were like hardcover essential issues of like Avengers, Fantastic Four. And I got to tell you, Jimmy, if there was anybody that helped initiate this love for comic books and my nerddom, you were definitely one of those proponents, man. You and my uncle, Danny, were so like fundamental in regards to me being one of the aspects of who I am today. But I just remember coming over to your apartment, opening them up, and just being so fascinated and thrown into that world of comic books. So I just want to say thank you, Jimmy, for that, for sure.
Wow. Well, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate hearing that, especially with the way things have turned out for you. That really touches my heart. So that's great. And my story is probably like your story. The same thing. When I was a kid, I stumbled onto somebody's comic book collection, and that was it. I was done, at that point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It just kind of sucks us all in for sure.
Yeah.
But so it's good to have you here, Jimmy. Listen, fellas, if you guys have any questions for Jimmy, feel free to certainly ask him anything that you'd like to. If anything, before we get into the WGA strike, I got to ask you, how did you guys come up with this concept for Nick Arcade? Because for me, the idea of virtual reality, putting people literally into the video games, having sort of face-offs, teams against teams when it comes to arcade games. How did that all kind of come to fruition for you guys?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I guess it was a kind of organic idea, right? At the time I was producer at Nickelodeon, and they kind of opened the door to development to anyone within the company. And myself and a buddy of mine who had gone to that high school together, Bronx High School of Science, we were kind of amateur tinkerers with computers and all of those things. And we stumbled upon a technology within one of the personal computers back in the day called the Commodore Amiga, that it had a technology that if you could feed it a high contrast image like you would get out of an Ultimate, like the green screen similar to the behind me, it would recognize that high contrast image and could interact with game sprites, with program technology. So to make a long story short, we realized, oh wow, in a way you could put someone inside a video game for real. So we kind of married that idea with the fact that Nickelodeon was huge at the time with game shows, right? Double Dare and others, and
Global
a lot
Guts
of those
and stuff. Yeah.
Global Guts, and so a lot of that was about wish fulfillment and also knowledge base. You know, the idea that for kids, if you think about what a game show is, and a lot of times it's about tapping into a certain knowledge base of the people at home, the viewers at home. You know, so it's like, oh yeah, I could follow this show because I know these things. But the question was, what do kids know? And kids, one of the things that kids were experts in were video games that adults weren't. So it can really kind of tapped into like a knowledge base to kind of pull it all together into one show. The only hitch being that the technology to make it all run smoothly didn't exist yet. There was no, virtual reality. A lot of the computer equipment, worked at different scan rates than television broadcast equipment. And now everything is all digital and everything is wonderful. But back then, you couldn't even switch from one input source to the other. We had to have special equipment engineered. We had to do a lot of software tinkering and programming. So at the end of the day, we just wanted to make a good show, and we hope that's how it turned out. But there was a ton going on backstage to pull it off.
It sounds like a ton of work and the advancement in technology to kind of pull that off. Any thoughts of ever doing like a reboot for a more modern age?
We've talked about it. I mean, the obvious thing is that video games only grew from there, right, and evolved to an amazing stage. So it seems kind of obvious on that level, but they've evolved in a lot of ways into things that are not necessarily TV friendly or family friendly. They've also become a lot more mature, a lot more adult, a lot more violent, and so forth. And so, so the question would become, which audience would you make this reboot for? Would you make it for the modern audience, or would you make it for the nostalgic audience? So we're talking about it. We're always talking about it. We'll see if anything happens, I'll let you know.
Awesome. Thank you, Jimmy. Appreciate that.
And then I'm also kind of curious about something, just because, so I follow a lot of gaming, or I used to follow a lot of gaming channels. And one of the biggest issues they would have every now and then, especially from companies like Nintendo, is constantly getting flagged for using footage from their games, even though it would technically follow under fair use. So I'm kind of wondering, like with a full on, TV production, did you have to deal with things like that from video game companies? Or what was that like?
That was actually a huge part of what we did during pre-production. Was we kind of did this dog and pony show and met with all of the big game developers, hardware and software developers, presented the show, and we had to kind of lay down the law and say either everybody's in or nobody's in, and we don't do it, because you had certain companies, Nintendo versus Sega, etc., who wanted exclusivity. Oh, sure, we'll do it, but only our games, only our hardware. And it was a very tough negotiation, but ultimately they came around. And so we had access to everyone's, games and everyone's, there were no exclusivities. And they provided a lot of material to us, even unpublished games. It was great. Once we had that deal, we knew we had a show at that point.
Awesome.
How did that how would you say that opened the door for you to move on to something like UPN?
Well, I guess what it did, so as you guys know, there are ranks of producers within television, and what that made happen for myself is that I became a showrunner, right? I developed the show, put the show together, staffed the show, cast the show. And I did this in conjunction with, like I said, my buddy who was the co-creator with me, and then ran the show. And the show was a success. And so it put me at a level where I was now a showrunner. And out of that, I ended up in a development overall deal with Nickelodeon and MTV Networks, and started up a production company. And not too long after, went out to Los Angeles for development meetings with networks here. And out of the blue, one of those networks turned around and offered me an executive job, which is a kind of a stunning. Wasn't on my radar at all.
Right.
But as I thought about it, I thought it might be a really great way to come to Los Angeles and learn how the business works, here, where most of the activity occurs. And if I would be coming in as quote unquote buyer, which means that it would be a kind of like a very friendly welcome, across the board. And so I made the leap. It sounded like a really great, fun experience, and I took the plunge, and I moved to LA to become an executive at a network, which was UPN. And then shortly after a months-long negotiation and shutting down my production company and moving everything out here, the CEO and the president of the company announced that they weren't renewing their contracts, and they were leaving.
So, lovely.
So welcome to Hollywood.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
How long did it take you before you actually got like your memberships to like WGA or SAG?
Those were the WGA. So I became a network. I was promoted a couple of times, and I ended up as head of what's called head of current programming for UPN. So that means, you have separate development departments that are bringing new shows into the network. And then you have a department that manages the production of everything in prime time. So I was head of that department. And after a while, the itch hit me to kind of get back onto the creative side as a showrunner. And so I ended up pitching an idea for a sitcom to UPN, to my own network, that they bought. And so was able to transition back over to the creative side as a writer, writing that network pilot, which didn't go to series, but put me into the Writers Guild again as a writer, creator, showrunner. The SAG thing was a lot more bizarre and just pure blind luck that at that high school that I went to, the Bronx High School of Science, I was good buddies with a guy whose name we all know now, named John Favreau. And here we are many years later in Hollywood together, and we would kind of go back and forth involving each other in projects that we were doing. I got into live television for a short while. I produced the Critics' Choice Awards, for instance, one year, a very big award show, and asked John to come on as a presenter, which he did. Nice. And then he did a pilot for a show, a half-hour show, and there was a dungeon master role that in the show, and so he kind of hit me up to do that while I was an executive to come by and play a dungeon master, because I was his dungeon master in high school. So anyway, so you have this kind of like crazy back and forth thing. And when he started doing Iron Man, he invited me over to kind of check out there I am. He invited me over to kind of check out some of the sets and the maquettes, the toys, the stuff that he was building. And of course, you just fall in love with it. And just as a joke, I said, you know what? I said, when you shoot this, I said, I want to be standing right there in the corner in a uniform doing nothing. Ha ha ha. 2 weeks later, the head of casting called and said, okay, so you're coming in next Wednesday and you're going to be standing in a corner in a military uniform. So I went, and just as a background performer, but something strange happened on the way to the forum. As we were filming the scene, there was like a jargon heavy component to a scene we were doing it was Terrence Howard's first day on the film. So he was getting up to speed. So that meant that everything else had to go perfectly so that he could just do take after take. But it wasn't working out that way because there were some lines preceding his that kept getting fumbled. And so John just said, "Hey, James, you know this jargon stuff, right? Backwards and forward. You know what we're trying to say here. Would you mind doing it?" And before I knew it, I'm in the movie, in a speaking line with Terrence Howard, who I had just worked with previously at UPN because he was on a series that we had about a law firm. So it's just very, very bizarre, very surreal. I'm not, a trained actor or anything, but I gave it my best. And they liked me enough to bring me back for Iron Man 2. And that's how I ended up in SAG.
Well, for the short amount of lines you had, I think you pulled them off perfectly, Jimmy.
They'll be my epitaph. Scramble the jets.
Yeah. But I will say it's so funny. I remember sitting down in theaters and watching the movie for the first time, and your face pops up on screen, and I was like, Is that who I think it was? And then you pop up again. I'm like, that's totally my cousin. I can't believe he's in this movie. So it was definitely awesome. A huge surprise. But I think it's fantastic story on how that kind of all came together for you. But this week, as everybody knows, the SAG-Aftra has in fact gone on strike, along with the WGA back in May, if I'm not mistaken. You've been on the picket line. You've been striking. I don't know how many days you've spent out there or anything like that. But for those of you for the viewers at home who maybe haven't caught up to, why are they striking? Why are the writers striking? Why are the actors striking? But they've just seen people out there. Can you let us in on that world a little bit more as to what some of the what is some of the things they're asking for, and maybe some of the pushback that you've heard from the studios and streamers?
Okay, sure. I mean, I think it boils down to two really big things. One is money, and the other is technology. And every few years or so, these labor contracts come back again for renewal. They come up again, and you look at where things have been, and the writers and the actors decide, where do we want them to be going forward? Are we making progress, or are we falling behind? And I think this time around, we've fallen so far behind that it's obvious that something needs to change or something needs to happen. Because in prior circumstances, a lot of times they would negotiate, okay, well, we'll increase the money a little bit here. We'll do certain things, and everybody can live with it. But the gap has become very egregious between what writers are being paid, what actors are being paid. And I'm not talking about the superstars. I'm talking about the main group of working writers and actors, who are not gazillionaires. Who make a good living and have a career. They are the ones who have kind of fallen behind because of some very specific changes that have happened in recent years. On the money side, particularly in television, it has to do with the advent of streaming services and the fact that there was no contract provision that stated that the residuals on streaming shows would be in line with what happened on linear or network television. So it became kind of a loophole where a company can produce a show, put it on a streaming service, and hugely undercut the writers or the actors, on that show. So, for instance, my partner Rosemary, who's also a writer, I still get residuals for Iron Man and Iron Man 2 through SAG. Last year, I made more in residuals on a 2008 movie than she did off of a 2002 series that she wrote 10 episodes of. They paid her 99 cents per episode in residuals. So she got a check for $9.99 because it was an NBC show, but that aired on Peacock. So because the show, her residuals were $9.99. That's, you can't live off of that. It's unsustainable, and so and on the flip side, the studios and the companies find themselves in a quandary because they rushed into streaming without necessarily thinking it through for all of these companies. So they have this big expense, that they're sort of trying to make up for some of it off of the back of the talent, because it was an unfortunate business decision. So it like I said, that's what's happening on the money side, and then on the technology side, you have AI, which kind of threatens to eliminate jobs, and replace people. And it's something that needs to be headed off because in the past, the companies have always said with new technologies, we don't worry about it. It's not even a business yet. It's not a mature business. We don't even understand what it is. We'll get to it later. And they did that with home video. They did that with streaming services. And now they're singing the same tune with AI. And, third time is the charm. We're not going to, we know what they're going to do, make promises, and then ultimately put all of their eggs in that basket, and we'll be left out in the cold. So that's what really makes this situation different than what's occurred in the past and why people are out there striking.
Yeah, because apparently they have not, the actors and the writers have not had a strike together since the 60s, I believe. So this is like 60 years coming, if you will. But you do make a good point in the sense that the model has definitely changed, right? And if you're still paying these actors and these writers based off of something that was agreed to 20 plus years ago, and you haven't really changed with the times. And we have been hearing just horror stories of streamers not wanting to give out any of their metrics or any of their numbers sort of thing. So that really at the end of the day hides their revenues and profits as to what they're making and who's actually watching their shows, where if they were to give those out, I'm assuming you would have to pay these actors and writers because of all the information that's out there, but they want to keep that for you guys.
Right. Depleting poverty on one hand, and then on the other hand, not showing their data. And oh, by the way, we just paid our CEO $200 million. So something doesn't add up. If that's the way they're going to play it, then we're going to say, why don't you go out there and write the shows or act in the shows then? Because we're not going to do it if that's if nothing changes.
And you're president of SAG, Fran Drescher. For those of you who don't know her, she is the nanny, and the nanny has come for the heads of the CEOs at studios this past week. She had a pretty impassioned statement that she had to make. I do want to play some of it for us, for this people at home that haven't had the opportunity to see what Fran was saying. We won't play the whole thing because I think her thing is like 6 minutes long, but I do want to play at least a portion of it for you guys. So let me go ahead and pull this up here. Where you at, Fran? There you go. Let me go ahead and hold on. Let me actually stop this real quick. I'm going to set this up one more time. Okay. All right, here we go.
We are the victims here. We are being victimized by a very greedy entity. I am shocked by the way the people that we have been in business with are treating us. I cannot believe it, quite frankly. How far apart we are on so many things. How they plead poverty, that they're losing money left and right when giving hundreds of millions of dollars to their CEOs. It is disgusting. Shame on them. They stand on the wrong side of history at this very moment. We stand in solidarity, in unprecedented unity Our union and our sister unions and the unions around the world are standing by us, as well as other labor unions. Because at some point, the jig is up. You cannot keep being dwindled and marginalized and disrespected and dishonored. The entire business model has been changed by streaming, digital, AI. This is a moment of history. That is a moment of truth. If we don't stand tall right now, we are all going to be in trouble. We are all going to be in jeopardy of being replaced by machines and big business. Who cares more about Wall Street than you and your family? Most of Americans don't have more than $500 in an emergency. This is a very big deal, and it weighed heavy on us. But at some point, you have to say, no, we're not going to take this anymore. You people are crazy.
Yeah, you people are crazy. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
That line.
So I have a question on whether or not you think this is accurate. So basically, a lot of streaming services have been removing a lot of shows, even shows that are currently in development. One of the examples I'm thinking of is like on Paramount Plus, Star Trek Prodigy Season 2,
Right.
got renewed. So as far as we all knew, that show was safe, but suddenly that show is now taken off. And as far as I know, they're not even going to air Season 2, even though it's being developed. So my question to you is this because they don't want to pay residuals to writers, like kind of as like a FU for going on strike type of thing? Because that's kind of like how it comes off to me, but I'm kind of curious, like in the perspective of a writer, is that what you think?
From what I've heard, that was more about taking advantage of an accounting opportunity, where if they take the show off the service and it disappears, it's dead, they can then claim the write-off, a write-down on their corporate taxes for it. So unfortunately, it's another one of those arbitrary kind of business decisions, just like the arbitrary decision to just say, hey, let's do MGM Plus, like something no one was asking for, but we've got to jump in because everybody else is in. It's so kind of, arbitrary shoot from the hip decisions that don't take into account what has worked so well in the past, which is the concept of building a library, right? That was the business lived off of that for decades. And the idea was we're making these shows, even if we take a loss on them up front, it was kind of like real estate. Over time, the library value will make up for it. And now we see decisions being made that don't seem to take that into account. And that's kind of scary, because then that means that's an incentive for Netflix to do. Let's do a new show. 6 episodes is the first season, and then it never comes back, or it does. You have a lot of shows that are disposable, and those are just arbitrary decisions that just, to me, sound kind of panicked and aren't smart. And so they don't have their act together enough to even start to do things that quote unquote go after the writers, because they're so caught up in this bad decision making.
And I will say, it is interesting you brought that up, the push for streaming, because it seems as though like somebody like Bob Iger just came back as Disney CEO. They just literally gave him an extension also to stay with the company. He's taken over for Bob Chapek, who really had to deal with Disney and Disney Plus and the streaming service during the time of COVID and things like that, as studios sort of changed the model of movie going based off of what COVID happened, and really pushing a lot of their effort towards streamers. But now you hear people like Bob Iger saying, well, now we got to reel things back in, like the model's broken, we want to put our efforts back into theaters, maybe not so much as streaming services as it certainly used to be, sort of thing. So it almost feels like they realized that they rushed into it, made a mistake, and now they're trying to sort of change those plans. But now it feels as though by them changing it, they're changing it sort of as at the detriment of the writers and the actors. Whereas like almost feel like the studio CEOs and streamers don't want to take any sort of accountability, or the fact that like we messed this up. Maybe maybe it should come from us financially in regards to fixing things, instead of us putting the burden on the writers and actors a little bit more. That's kind of what it feels like to me a little bit.
I agree with that. That's my thinking is if the model's broken, who broke it? You know,
Right.
Not the writers and the actors who were in like a golden age of television, right? Even if you account for streaming, shows have never been better. As a viewer, you know, hopefully people appreciate what they're getting from the writers and the actors. Those like I said, those business decisions. I find it ironic that statements like that are made, and yet what we're going to see in the next few weeks, when all of these companies have to report their most recent quarter of earnings, we're going to see all the optimism from them, right, in terms of their revenues and everything that they made. And I'm not talking about profits, because anybody can make profits look bad so that you, for instance, can't pay someone what you owe them. I'm talking about revenues and the overall health of these companies. They're massive conglomerates that, again, have enough money to pay a Bob Iger, for instance, 30 million a year or whatever he's making. Maybe put a little bit of that money towards making up for your whatever reconfiguring that you have to do. You know, what I hope is what the strike is going to do is make it visceral and real for a lot of these people, because they appear to be living in bubbles, right? And you've got to pierce that bubble, you know, for them to go, okay, now we get it. You know, that's what we're doing. We're piercing the bubble.
And speaking of people living inside of a bubble, I do want to bring up this quote from Bob Iger. This was, I believe he sat down with Variety. It says Disney CEO Bob Iger says writers and actors are not being realistic with strikes. It's very disturbing to me. And look, I used to love Bob Iger. I absolutely did. I mean, he always felt like he used to come out and say all the right things. He used to be so supportive of his actors and his directors and stuff. And I used to be like, that is a CEO everybody deserves. Bob is always going to have your back. So now getting an opportunity to kind of see Bob Iger come out and say these things, it's you know, definitely gives you a different perspective of the people on top a little bit. And he it says during an appearance on on NBC's Squawk Box on Thursday morning, Bob Iger said that the writers and actors union going on strikes in Hollywood are not being realistic. He says, it's very disturbing to me. We've talked about the disruptive forces on this business and all the challenges we're facing. The recovery from COVID, which is ongoing. It's not completely back. This is the worst time in the world to add to that disruption, is what Iger says, talking about the strikes. I understand any labor organization's desire to work on behalf of its members to get most compensation and be compensated fairly based on the value that they deliver. We managed, as any industry, to negotiate a very good deal with the Directors Guild that reflects the value that the directors contribute to this great business. We wanted to do the same with the writers, and we'd like to do the same with the actors. There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic. They are adding to the set of challenges that this business is already facing that is, quite frankly, very, very disruptive, is what he says. And he says it will have a very damaging effect on the whole business. And unfortunately, there's a huge collateral damage in this industry to people who are supportive services. And I could go on and on. It will affect the economy of different regions, even because of the sheer size of the business. It's a shame. It's a real shame, is what Iger says, as he tries to deflect what's going on to putting blame on the writers and directors there a little bit. And Stuart, you have a clip, I believe, from Sean Gunn that responded to Bob. Do you want to play that one real quick?
Yep.
I think that when Bob Iger talks about what a shame it is, he needs to remember that in 1980, CEOs like him made 30 times what their lowest worker was making. Now Bob Iger makes 400 times what his lowest worker is. And I think that's a shame, Bob. And maybe you should take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, why is that? And not only why is that, is it okay? Is it morally okay? Is it ethically okay that you make that much more than your lowest worker? And if so, why? Why is that okay? If your response is that that's just the way business is done now, that's just the way corporations work now, well, that sucks, and that makes you a person if that's your answer. So you should come up with a better answer than that.
Yeah. Sean Gunn right there. It's just, dishing out heat. And trust me, I've heard a bunch of actors and writers dishing out heat on not only Bob Iger, but the streaming service CEOs. What do you think about that, Jimmy?
I couldn't agree more. So it's unrealistic to ask to make a working wage, but it's not unrealistic to fly on a corporate private jet to a Sun Valley conference, on your way to making $30+ million. Like that's not
bubble.
Unrealistic.
That
is. I'm saddened because I was also a big admirer of Bob Iger. He started as a TV executive. He was president of ABC. A very writer-friendly person who got the business. And during past disruptions, my understanding is he was instrumental in resolving them. He was one of the people leading the AMTP, like, hey, let's work this out. Let's come together. And now you hear this kind of tone-deaf statement that makes me wonder what kind of like I said, bubble is he in, and a bunch of other folks that needs to be pierced so he can get back to work, the way that he used to. So, yeah, that's my feeling.
And that's my stepdad coming through, Rick. He says the shame is that the CEOs are greedy and are responsible for massive inequities in the pay of their average workers and CEOs' compensation. Yeah, absolutely. You have also another clip here, Stuart, from I think it's the Streamer's Cruel Plan. Go ahead and play that one.
So yesterday, some studio executives told the press that they were planning on waiting out the Writers Guild until October, when writers will lose our apartments and homes and become homeless, and then be forced to come back to the table and take a bad deal. Now, first of all, I cannot believe that they said this. They took the mask off. They told on themselves bigger than anyone I have ever seen. But also, they are dead fucking wrong, because writers are in this for the long haul. We have a strike fund that we use to support other writers who are on hard times. We are raising money for crew members and other people affected by the strike. And most importantly, we know that if we do not get a fair deal, we will not have jobs to go back to. So we are not going to leave this picket line. We are going to keep withholding our labor until the companies come back to the table and make a fair deal. And they're going to do that. You know why? Because they need us. Every dollar they make begins with us. So they are not starving us out. We are starving them out. And until they come back to the table, there will be no writing.
I gotta admit, when I saw that online, the first, so like before the response that Adam just did, I thought that was a joke. I'm like, there's no way a CEO actually said that. I was like, I couldn't believe that was real.
Yeah, it's definitely a shame for sure. Like it definitely blew me away but I guess, look, there's a part of me that wants, like, I've never been in negotiations like that before, Jimmy. But as somebody that has been a part of AMPTP, I guess the question I would have is that sort of a normal expectation that some studio CEOs may have, or like, is that something you've heard of before in the past, or is this even above and beyond what it takes when it comes to something like a negotiations and how you treat the other side?
It was ridiculous, stupid, boneheaded, insulting. And I actually heard that there was an hour-long screaming match within the AMPTP over that somebody went to the press and made that kind of a statement. In my experience, most of the creative executives in Hollywood are fans of writers. Those are their collaborative partners. If a show goes on the air that I've shepherded as an executive and it's a success, a hit, that helps my career. We're protective of the writers in that community and appreciative. But then you have other aspects of that side of the business, such as the business affairs departments, where you might find some people who are cutthroat and one step removed from evil. And all I could say about somebody making that statement was, I've been out there 4 hours a day for dozens and dozens of days in the heat, doing this march. It just made everybody there pissed off and more dug in. Like, we are not going to stop. You think you're going to take our homes? That was one of the most insulting things I've ever heard in my life. And I think strategically dumb for them. because in the
Not
end,
good.
they're going to pay more for that statement.
I totally agree, because I do feel like since that statement, since Fran Drescher's press conference, I feel like there's
Mhm.
just been an abundance of energy.
Right.
The WGA have been on strike since May. They definitely had their energy. It feels like maybe it's kind of waned a little bit, but now that we have an additional strike and these statements continuing to come out, it definitely feels
Mhm.
like these strikes have definitely been revitalized. Marcelino says some people don't support the strike because they don't like the current writers and think they should be replaced with newer, better writers. What is your response to that? I do hear a couple of things like that from time to time. It's usually on Twitter Spaces, where it's not really a real world, but I do hear that kind of pushback. What would you say to those people that are, say, the writers deserve this? This is an opportunity for them to get rid of them and maybe bring on better writers.
Here's the thing. It's not just about the writers. When I hear this, so does every production start with somebody writing a script? Yes. But the fact is that production represents not just writers, but grips, hair and makeup people, teamsters. There's a whole community of people that work on these shows. And as they start to shorten the seasons or shorten the orders or undercut what's happening to writers, that affects everybody. Back in the heyday when I was at the network, orders were typically 22 episodes per season, and sometimes it'd be extra, going all the way up to 26. That kept everybody employed year round. And you know what that meant? If you were on a show that kept coming back, it meant that you could plan your life, and it meant that you had a career. But if you're going to make every job, like Uber,
Gig
where,
economy now.
yeah, how does that, what does that say, not just for writers, but for everybody else who works in this profession? Are they entitled to have a career or not? Like, those kind of fundamental questions, I think, are the questions that are the issue.
Yeah, because I did read an article that somebody was mentioning that the idea of, shows did used to go 20 episodes. Now you're going 6 to 8, maybe 10.
Right. Yep.
And then you got to try and find your next thing of work. And then
but guess what? They have an option on you so that you can't, but you're on a hold in your contract for X number of months after, where you can't get another job if you wanted to. So there's less work and less ability to get new work.
Wow, that's just absolutely outlandish to me, honestly. Because then it ends up becoming sort of like you mentioned, the idea of having to pick up a gig, and it's no longer a career for you that you can stabilize for yourself. And I also heard I think Leslie Jones or somebody had come out and said that I was talking about the healthcare for like actors and things like that. That I guess for SAG, I think when it comes to healthcare, you have to make at least 26,000 a year, sort of thing. And like you mentioned, we're not even talking about the superstars in Hollywood. We're just talking about your everyday average actors trying to make a living off of this sort of thing.
Right.
It becomes extremely difficult for them to have healthcare and be able to take care of themselves health-wise if they're being undercut like this.
Correct. And again, at the same time, we're talking about this stuff. What's happening within the corporations? Look at how they're compensating their top executives. So something doesn't add up. You don't hear them saying we're in a gig economy as CEOs. I haven't heard that from anyone because they're not.
Mm-hmm. And then I wanted the WGA negotiations. I wound up pulling this up, just some of the WGA proposals, the writers that they were proposing, and they were talking about the cost. It says WGA's proposal would gain writers approximately $429 million per year. AMPT's offer is approximately $86 million a year. 48% of which is from minimum increase. And I think that SAG is maybe asking for like 2% or something like that. My thing is just like, I just don't understand why. I don't want to say I don't understand, but it feels like there's so much more room for a middle ground here that people just aren't even trying to recognize.
Yes, I agree. I look, a lot of it is about positioning and bluster, right? Who's going to quote unquote look like they blinked, right? You get into some of those issues where if you just look at the math, it's pretty obvious where that what's being asked for is a relative drop in the bucket relative to the revenues of that these companies are earning. But I think on their side, they're looking at what quote unquote precedents they're going to be setting, and how, whether they're going to look to Wall Street as if they were tough and held the line, and all of those things that have nothing to do with the reality of the situation that we're in. Like Fran Drescher said, they really are, I think, on the wrong side of history with this situation right now, because everybody out there is affected by a lot of these issues that they didn't know they had in common with writers. It's like, oh, that's happening to them. They're doing the same thing to me. They're cutting back on hours and overtime, and cutting out whole layers at the bottom while increasing what they pay out to the CEOs. Everybody's feeling this in industries around the world.
Yeah, it definitely feels very much like a moment in history. I mean, I feel like this year, especially maybe towards the tail end of last year, I've never seen so many unions going on strikes, or laborers sort of really fighting to get what they certainly deserve. And so I do think the idea now that we have somebody like a Fran Drescher and other big named actors that are coming out and talking about this, I definitely do think it will not only put attention for what's happening in Hollywood, but I'm hoping that it brings attention to just really what's happening all around the world, or at least here in this country, because it does feel very much like the studio CEOs and streamers really focus on what Wall Street wants and what Wall Street feels is good. And so they're like, yeah, okay, this must be good. But at the end of the day is really cutting out the labor and the people that actually work and create that type of stuff. And so this doesn't just necessarily go for actors and writers, but really just the country as a whole.
Yes.
Man, unbelievable. So let me ask you, Jimmy, like, what's the next step here for you guys? I mean, is it just continued striking on the picket lines? If there is anything else that we as people on the outside looking in could do to help, do you have any recommendations or anything like that for us?
I think my main recommendation would be to keep following developments, stay active on social media, let your voice be added to the conversation, because I think these companies do respond to public pressure as well. So if you're out there making your opinion known on these issues, that's going to help us. We've been saying since the writer's strike began, and now through SAG, that the door is open. We're waiting to hear back from these companies. They simply aren't responding to the proposals. They've not come back with anything. They are the ones who are playing a waiting game. We're ready to get a deal done and go back to work, and the sooner the better. But if they're going to hold out, we're going to go all the way with this, because I think the miscalculation they made is that we see this for what it is, which is existential. If we're going out anyway, then we're prepared to go all the way, until we get there. We're not going to stop, because we've already been pushed out beyond that point, where things are tough. And I think that's the miscalculation that a lot of these companies made, that they didn't see the damage that they had already done.
Should films not be supported during this time? Frankie's asking.
You mean by going to see films that are already made? That's a tough choice. I mean, we're not trying to make enemies of the people that support us, of the fans. So I would say, if you're a fan of something, this is about us and what we need to do. So we can't go out and promote that film that you want to go see. That's on us. But by all means, if you're a fan of something, then continue to support that thing. I would say.
And then one other question that I have for you, and this comes up for both actors and writers, the issue of AI. Writers worry that AI might start writing scripts. We've already heard from the press conference from SAG that one of the proposals, I think, from AMPT was the idea of paying your extras like 1 day of work and then
Mhm.
scanning you in this system and being able to use
Yeah.
your likeness for like perpetuity and things like that. And I'm sure it's probably didn't happen with just the writers. I mean, with just the
Right.
extras, you know, I'm sure that there are other actors out there that have been kind of scanned. Um, do you know what the proposal is from the actor side or the writer side on how AI should be treated? And do you have any particular views on what AI could do harm or maybe benefit to a certain extent for actors and
Okay.
writers?
I'm not an expert on all of the positions on this, including the Writers Guild position, but except just the general principle that AI should not replace human jobs, right? So, not that AI can't be used in the process, but that AI should not be the main element, which, like I said, again, replaces a professional writer. And that, I think, like I said, is a very basic principle that could apply not just in our industry, but across the board.
Mhm.
Just because technology makes something possible doesn't mean that you should do it or that it should work in an unfettered way, right? You know, we can make the same argument for bus drivers or truck drivers. You know, again, I think and I hope that through what we're going through, that we can establish that precedent in a labor contract that other groups of labor across the country can point to and say, yes, that principle, we're going to work from that principle. We've got to get a handle on this now, or it's over for many people in many professions, including CEOs.
Yeah, watch out,
You
Bob.
know?
They might be coming for your job soon one day.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, my mom's coming through. What's up, Mom? She says, "Man, these executives just need to take care of the people who actually put them in the positions to be an executive. Again, forgetting who actually made you a CEO. Rise makes enough money to share the wealth and people who are helping you make the money with their talents." And that's one of the things
Yeah.
I always kind of boggled my mind is like, I don't remember you guys creating anything or actually putting pen to paper, right? Like, but yet you take all the rewards that come with all the great creativity that writers and actors are certainly putting out, and then the CEOs wind up benefiting off of it the most. So yeah, definitely a huge wealth gap that's definitely happening here. So Stuart, any other clips you have that you want to throw up? One last clip.
I got I got one more clip, but before I play it, I just
Go for it.
so something just occurred to me because you mentioned AIs, possibly taking over CEO jobs, and it just kind of occurred to me. The job of a CEO is to kind of, make decisions based on, audiences, based on what they think audiences want to see and things like that. And I feel like that's something an AI can actually do almost
Mhm.
better than a person because they're able to look through all the numbers like on the internet. So if CEOs aren't careful, people are gonna catch on to this. People are gonna realize, hey,
Oh,
we
yeah.
don't need CEOs, but you know what we do
Right.
need? I can tell the difference between something written by an AI and something written by a person.
Mhm.
And I'm sure most people can. So writing cannot be replaced by AIs. But executives kind of can when you think about it.
Yes. Hey, you're being unrealistic now. Don't go down that unrealistic and shameful road.
Last clip. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Stuart. Go ahead.
My bad. I was gonna say an AI would have put out Batgirl.
Oh, maybe I mean, you might be right.
Probably.
You might be right.
Probably.
Let's test it. Let's find out.
Yeah.
Let's ask it.
So this last clip comes from Ron Perlman, and keep in mind there are a few Hollywood actors out there that I would say are badass, but they're like Hollywood badass. So if like any one of them
Right.
threatened me, I'd be like, yeah, whatever. I'm not taking that seriously. Ron Perlman's one of the few exceptions to that. He's one where it's like if I heard him threaten me, I'd be like, okay, now I'm a little scared.
The motherfucker who said we're going to keep this thing going until people start losing their houses and their apartments. Listen to me, motherfucker. There's a lot of ways to lose your house. Some of it is financial. Some of it is karma. And some of it is just figuring out who the said that. And we know who said that. And where he lives. There's a lot of ways to lose your house. You wish that on people. You wish that families starve while you're making $27 million a year for creating nothing. Be careful, motherfucker. Be really careful. Because that's the kind of that stirs up. Peace out.
Okay, Ron Perlman, man.
Yeah.
Right? That's the same reaction I had after watching. I was like, damn, okay.
Yeah, I'm scared. I got to say right off the bat, like, I would in no way condone any kind of violence
Yeah,
or
absolutely
anything
not.
like
No,
that
right.
against people. But what I will say is, though, that anger, like, that's what's fueling people now out there on the streets when we're out there in the heat, walking in circles for hours. You know, that's what they've tapped into, you know, by their overall kind of callous treatment, their mishandling of this entire situation.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Jimmy. Absolutely. Any last questions from Indy or Stuart before we go ahead and wrap up?
No, I do have a statement though that I want to make.
for it.
As being a podcaster and a reviewer, a lot of my success and income comes from what writers and actors, you know what I'm saying, produce and what they put on screen. So I stand against a lot of the podcasters that are talking about actors and writers are being too greedy. You know what I'm saying? That they're not as important as they are. When the funny thing is, your channel wouldn't have the views that they have if you weren't talking about the properties and the content that these writers and these actors, you know, created. I don't understand these CEOs. Well, let me not say that. I understand these CEOs. This has been happening forever. You know, make as much money you can off the least amount of effort that, you know what I'm saying, you could possibly put into it. The question that was asked about get better writers. Maybe writers will write better if they were properly compensated, and they're giving you what you deserve to get from how they're being paid because they know they're worth more money. This is something that could be easily solved, especially with the money that's made on the top end. It's just that people are greedy. America has been greedy forever, and it's not going to stop. What will stop is people being screwed over in the end, because what they're asking for is a fair deal. They're not asking for the world. They're asking for what they need in order to be able to survive and create this content, because it's costing them money, it's costing them time to do, and they're not being well compensated back. And it's just crazy in how many aspects, not just with writers and actors, how many aspects in life that this is actually happening when CEOs are just destroying the middleman or the low end of the totem pole that is providing the content for them.
Oh, I totally agree with you, Indy. And it's one of those things like they're not asking for much. They're not asking for the world, right? SAG asking for 2% is a drop in the bucket of what they're making. Like Bob Iger making $27 million a year. I'm sure he's probably got other deals and other things that are coming in, stock, you know, that he's getting paid for, marketing, promotions from other companies that he's probably getting paid for on top of that. And you're trying to tell me you can't make what? 15 million, Bob? Like, you can't make 10 million, Bob? Is that gonna take away your fancy yacht sort of thing, right? It's just one of those things where they've just become extremely cheap, very greedy, not wanting to split, you know, the rewards from everybody certainly working together as a team to put them in the position that they are. So it just boggles my mind that it gets to the point to where we can't even give up 2% of something of an overall revenue in order to help out some of these actors and directors, actors and writers. It's pretty disgusting.
Yeah, you have billion-dollar franchises, billion-dollar movies, you know what I'm saying, that are going, that aren't because you chose something to happen. It's because actors enjoy the written word that they are acting out, that the writers took the time to write, that is inspired by content that was written by writers before that. So it's like, pay these people what they deserve, because you wouldn't be where you're at if they weren't putting in the work. If you don't have workers, what do you have? Because you're as easy as people say it is. Oh, I can make a superhero movie. I can make a sci-fi movie. No, you can't, because if you could, you would have did it, and you would have cut all them people out and kept them all the money yourself.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely a lot harder. People think it's easy to make a movie. It's certainly not, for sure. And I'm sure
If
James can attest to that.
Yeah, if I can add in something, because sometimes it helps also to think of examples that are just more simpler and obvious. If you look at, let's say, professional sports, I think the NBA players make something like 40-something% of the revenue from the NBA, and very few people begrudge them what they make, because it's obvious what they do. You watch them play, and you know that the owners can't get out there on the court and do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so much more obvious when you look at like elite sports, but I think it's comparable to the entertainment field, which is essentially elite creativity, you know. And on those grounds, like you said, these folks, if they could suit up and go out there and do it themselves, they would, but they can't. But for whatever reasons, maybe just because it's just the personalities of writers and those types of creative people, which tend to be more standoffish, and we can kind of take it a little more, where you're not going to get that in professional sports, you know, from
Right.
that mentality. They've just kind of taken advantage too much, but they've pushed these kind of sheepish people into the corner, and now you see the nanny come out swinging. You know, you see what's there inside of us that they're forcing out of us now. In this tough situation.
And I never really followed Fran so much after the nanny, but I got to tell you, man, I'm a big supporter of hers now again. She definitely won me over with this. I love her passion behind it, and I definitely hope the writers and actors eventually do get what they certainly deserve, and hopefully these CEOs will eventually pay attention. But I think you're right. I think social pressures will definitely come into play. You got something else, Indy?
I'm hoping, because of a question that Marcelino asked. He asked, how will the strike affect comic book writers and novelist writers? To me, I feel like it affects them in different ways and what's going on. One, because a lot of comic book writers are eating off of their content being developed into some type of mainstream, whether it's television or anything like that. That's the big boom right now. So it's going to affect their bottom line and what they're doing and what they're trying to write to. But what I want to see them do is just go ahead and get out there, you know what I'm saying, and strike with, you know what I'm saying, everybody else, because it's going to affect them too in the long run. And it's the solidarity of writers, because when you're down to it, I think Mark Bernardin said it the best on the Batman Beyond, you know what I'm saying, podcast with Kevin Smith. When it comes down to the bare bones, a writer is a writer, and we're all trying to achieve making our thing, you know what I'm saying, into something bigger. And if they're willing to screw over the writers who are writing for their movies or their television, you know what I'm saying, what are they going to do to comic book or novelist writers when they look at it? Because if they look at them at the bottom of the barrel, how do they look at us?
Yeah, no, I totally feel you there, man. That's powerful stuff, man, overall. But Jimmy, thank you so much, man, for pay the writers, Holly Weird. Thanks, Tony, for certainly coming through. But Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us here today, man. It's been so insightful, very eye-opening. We'd love to have you back on the show to definitely pick your brains, not just on the strike, but hopefully other things in the future as well. But Stuart, Indy, any last questions or comments you want to make to Jimmy before he leaves?
I just want to say I wish like all the writers, all the actors striking out there the best luck. I really look forward to seeing like what positive changes this is going to make. And I hope for the best, because I know that, yeah, there's definitely going to be some, you know, struggling actors and writers out there. So I just, you know, hopefully everyone just looks out for each other. And in the end, you know, hopefully the long run, in the end game, this is going to make just Hollywood like a better place, you know, for people who are actually like trying to make a living and be able to do what they love for a living, you know.
Thank you very much, Stuart and Adam. You know, thank you guys for listening and all of your support. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, anytime, Jimmy. But thank you so much, guys. Thank you, everybody. Jimmy Bethea, ladies and gentlemen. All right, well, I'll talk with you later, Jimmy. Okay.
All right, man. Take care.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Or you too.
All right, wonderful, guys. So if anything, wow, I'm so
hold
glad
on.
I was able to get my cousin on here, like, for sure.
Let's thank him. Let's
Huh?
thank him properly for coming on, you know what I'm saying, and doing that, because I can tell you right now, it's an inspiration seeing somebody I'm gonna go there. It's an inspiration to see somebody who looks like me, you know what I'm saying, be in the rooms and be in the position, you know what I'm saying, that he has. Because normally when you look at that, you don't see people that look like us, Adam. You know what I'm saying? You see the Bob Igers and everybody else, you know what I'm saying, doing those types of things. So that just gives me inspiration that I'm on the right path, you know what I'm saying, to succeed in what I want to succeed in.
You know, I will say this too. I going through Jimmy's Wikipedia page. I don't know if he's ever checked this out himself. On his Wikipedia page, it just says, as a former head of current programming for UPN, he was among the handful of African American writer. He is among a handful of African Americans to head a programming department at a broadcast network during that time. So very much making history at the same time. But yeah, Jimmy's been incredible, and I've honestly I've been so impressed with what he's been able to do, that like for me, it's always been intimidating sometimes to kind of reach out to him, honestly, just because it's one of those things where it's like I'm trying to create something for myself also. And I know that he was certainly trying to do the same thing in his life. But sometimes, it's one of those things, especially as family, like you don't want to come across as the person that's like trying to get by on somebody else's work or name or something like that. You know what I mean? When in reality, it just comes from a love of what he's doing, the fact that he got me into this nerd type of stuff. But it's hard. It was definitely hard for a long period of time for me to kind of express that. But I'm so thankful for the opportunity that over the past couple of years, him and I have been more active, been more vocal, talking with each other, and really being open to doing stuff like this. So Jimmy, it's super appreciative for everything that you've done. So thank you so much for that. It was definitely very pleasurable to have him on here, man. And I hope you viewers at home certainly learned a little bit something here today as well. But all right, guys, I think that will do it for that main topic today. And if anything, you guys ready to move on to our next one?
Yeah,
let's get to the
I almost forgot what the next topic was. We were talking for so long. But all right, next topic up that we're going to get into today, guys, that's going to be some DCU. DC Studios is back in the news. James Gunn making some headlines here before the strike ever happened earlier this week. It was one of those things where we started getting a bunch of reveals this week, Monday and Tuesday. And I was thinking to myself, maybe they're doing these reveals to kind of get ahead of the San Diego Comic-Con stuff that's about to happen. Now I'm very much just looking at it as they just simply wanted to promote as much stuff as they possibly can before the strike winds up happening. But they did a fantastic job, because I think it was either Monday or Tuesday, we got ourselves a plethora of brand new casting announcements for the upcoming Superman Legacy movie. Now, we've already been introduced to David Corenswet, who's going to be our new Clark Kent, aka Superman. We also got introduced to Rachel Brosnahan, who's also going to be our brand new Lois Lane as well. But now, guys, our DCU is officially being populated with more superheroes. So let's go ahead and dive into this article. We got a couple of them for you guys today. This one, I think, is going to come from Vanity Fair, as they are, in fact, the ones that revealed Superman Legacy casts Isabella Merced, Edie Gathegi, and Nathan Fillion. This is an exclusive, as they are in fact set to portray the characters Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific, and everybody's favorite Green Lantern, Guy Gardner here. It does say Superman Legacy movie will mark the live action rebirth of the DC universe. They've added 3 new actors to its cast, each of them playing a superhero with a long history in the comic books. So let me go ahead and pull this up. The first one we did a news flash for you guys earlier this week. First one that we had, where did my article go? Isabel Merced will play Hawkgirl. We also got Eddie Gathegi, who will play Mr. Terrific, and then Nathan Fillion will portray Green Lantern. It does say here, in an exclusive Variety Fair, DC Studios reveals the new addition, Merced, best known for playing the besieged drug cartel daughter in Sicario's sequel, and the ever-exploring title character Dora. She actually played Dora the Explorer in the live-action movie, will soar into the new universe as the winged warrior Hawkgirl. The heroes battle The hero's favorite battle accessories are melee weapons, swords, spears, and maces. And Mercedes, who is 5'1" size, will set her apart from her typical comic book brawler. They also talk about Gathegi, who played the double-dealing vampire Laurent in the Twilight films. And you can also catch him as Darwin in X-Men's First Class. He will take on the role of Mr. Terrific, a.k.a. Michael Holt, who is not only a skilled combatant, but one with the most brilliant inventors and tacticians, orbited by the floating T-spheres weapons he designed. Among his superpowers is his otherworldly intellect. On the sleeve of his jacket is the phrase "fair play," which is a tribute to the catchphrase of an earlier version of the Mr. Terrific character, as well as statement of belief. And then, of course, finally, we've got Nathan Fillion, a mainstay of Gunn's movies, who starred in the director's first movie, Slither. He was also popped up recently in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And then he was also as TDK, if I'm not mistaken, in the Suicide Squad movie. So yeah, he will in fact be playing Guy Gardner's Green Lantern. So some big developments here. Let me remove Indy in the meantime until he comes back. So some big developments here. And trust me when I say we got more, but I want to dive into just these three at first. Stuart, out of the three casts that we have, that first three that wind up coming, who jumps out to you the most that you want to talk about first?
I guess we'll talk about the Nathan Fillion one because, you know, it's really funny. Ever since the Green Lantern animated movie, not to be confused with the one that came out like the next year with Ryan Reynolds, but there was an animated Green Lantern movie where I believe it was Nathan Fillion who voiced Green Lantern in that movie. Ever since then, though, I should probably double check that. I know that he definitely voiced Green Lantern in something, but ever since then, it's been this awesome idea that, you know, he would make such a great Hal Jordan, and I've always agreed with that. However, years have gone by, and right now I feel like, you know, when it comes to comic book movies, you really want to cast like younger actors, especially when it comes to really big roles that you really see franchise material for. However, Guy Gardner, though. Guy Gardner is a character that I don't necessarily want to see be erased from the DC universe, but he's also not exactly the most important Green Lantern out there. Mm-hmm. So he's one that's kind of cool to just have around, but not really give his own movie to. So I think the idea of him being kind of a character that'll exist in this universe, played by Nathan Fillion, and just kind of you know, it's, unless I'm wrong, maybe people will love him so much he'll get his own Green Lantern movie, but I'm kind of doubting that for now. For now, it kind of just looks like the plan is to keep him as kind of a side character in this DC universe going forward. I think that's the perfect role for Guy Gardner, and I think Nathan Fillion playing that role, especially with James Gunn directing his first appearance, I think is going to be brilliant, especially because like the two of them always work really well together. I loved him in that cameo in Guardians 3, and then of course, you know, in Slither he was great. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree with you. I think the idea of getting Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner definitely suggests something along those lines because of the fact that he is an older character, or he is an older actor playing Guy Gardner. I think a lot of us maybe assume that he would be somebody that might be younger. But if anything, because I think just based off of some of the casting announcements that we had from the previous like Green Lantern TV show and things like that, we thought that that was maybe like a younger route or something that they kind of wanted to go with. But now seeing Nathan Fillion in here as Guy Gardner, I'm under the assumption with you, Stuart, that he might be great as like a supporting character or a side character, but maybe not somebody that they would give a full-fledged Green Lantern movie to. I mean, that could certainly change, but I do think that their focus and their main focus will be on that Lanterns TV series where you've got Hal Jordan along with Jon Stewart in there, sort of as that true detective vibe, if you will, and then eventually maybe bringing those characters to kind of the big screen. Like for me, when I think of Nathan Fillion, Stewart, as Guy Gardner, I think of like a man sort of trapped in time. Like I can still see him, even though it's 2023, rocking the bowl cut that he had since the 80s or 90s. You know, I can see that maybe he hasn't fully come around to political correctness yet. You know, like just that guy that's just stuck in that era. I can see Nathan Fillion sort of playing that type of guy, like an asshole, but you kind of like him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think he can bring such a fantastic balance to it. And I do think it's a good choice for Guy Gardner, but I can understand some people that might have pushback of the idea of Nathan Fillion being a little bit older. But I think that's because of the type of character they really want their Guy Gardner to be.
And I think, going to James Gunn again, I think he's perfect to direct a character like that if that's the route they decide to go for. Because, like, looking at Peacemaker alone, how they
Right.
were able to take, a guy who personally came off as super unlikable, in Suicide Squad. But then by the end of the show, I'm like, wow, I actually really like him now. So, like, you can do a character if you can make a character like Peacemaker likable the way James Gunn did. I'm really excited to see what he does with Guy Gardner.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. And then we had Isabella Merced, I believe is her name, our former Dora the Explorer. I personally haven't had the opportunity to check out that movie. I don't know if you've ever checked out Dora, but I think it definitely surprised people that did get the opportunity to see it and thought it was actually a lot better than most people suggested. It's not a film that I've personally seen, but I think this is a great opportunity for her. And if anything, this does make me wonder, just based off of the Vanity Fair article that we had, which version of Hawkgirl are we going to get out of this one, right? The Kendra Saunders one? Are we going to get, was it Sheila Hall? I can't remember her first name, unfortunately. Like the one that gets reincarnated. Is she a Thangarian warrior? I am kind of curious as to which route that they're going to go here with Hawkgirl. But I dig the idea of Hawkgirl being in here. But it does open up a lot of other questions, like, where's Aldous Hodge as Hawkman? Is he going to be coming back, sort of thing, or is Hawkgirl going to be your prevalent character in here? But I dig the choice of Hawkgirl. I really do.
Yeah, I really hope that they bring back, the previous actor that played him in Black Adam. Even if they don't want Black Adam to be part of like the new DC universe going forward, I think the casting that they had for him, and then of course for Dr. Fate, were really cool. So I would hope that we could see them come back and reprise their roles in a future like JSA movie or something.
Marceline does say, well, I find it interesting is that Isabel is 10 years younger than Aldous, so maybe that hints towards Hawkman being recast. Who knows? I don't know what the age that they're going to be going for when it comes to Hawkgirl. Maybe movie-wise, they're a lot closer than we assume. We have heard before James Gunn saying that some actors may be returning to reprise their roles, but I would assume, if anything, they may act a little bit different, because I'm assuming these are brand new Earths and worlds that we're on. So whether or not Aldous Hodge returns as Hawkman, that I'm not sure of. I definitely would like him to, because I think especially out of the Black Adam movie, if there was sort of any saving grace, I thought the JSA were great in that movie. And I absolutely would love to see Aldous Hodge back as Hawkman. But if we can't have Hawkman for some time, I think Hawkgirl is just as great of a pickup here. So kudos to Isabella Merced for landing that role. And then we've got Edie Gathegi. I'm butchering this man's name. I'm just gonna call him Eddie for now. But Mr. Darwin, who unfortunately, the mutant that couldn't get killed, did get killed in X-Men First Class, but now is getting the opportunity to I don't want to say it's like save things for himself, but he's coming back in superhero form, as he's going to be Mr. Terrific in this. And James Gunn, over the past several months, has hinted at Mr. Terrific being in the DCU. On his Twitter account, he had several posts where he did post pictures of Mr. Terrific. So it kind of all comes full circle here, as Mr. Terrific will be in this movie as well. And I think this opens up a lot of doors for the DCU, Stuart. Would you see these three being added in here? Does this concern you in regards to maybe this world being overstuffed? Or, how could you see them handling somebody like a Mr. Terrific or any of these characters in this upcoming movie?
I'm going to be honest. That's the one part that kind of worries me about this movie is, three superheroes that to me are kind of unrelated. Like, yes, I think all three of those members at one point or another have been on the Justice League, of course, but I can't think of any time where it was like, then again, it's not like I read every Justice League comic book out there, so I'm sure there probably is one that someone could prove me wrong about, but I can't think of a time there was a story where it was the three of them, teaming up or anything like that. So it feels like a really random combo, and I think my biggest worry is that it kind of looks like the same mistake that a lot of cinematic universes have made when they try to jump off, kickstart their universe. So like the Mummy, for example, with Tom Cruise, the fact that it wasn't just a Mummy movie. They also wanted to set up Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They had to set up like this weird version of Shield, but it's like, you know, the Universal monster movie version of Shield. You know, it's you know, it was so much that they didn't even want to make just a straight up mummy movie. They had to make it all these other things, and that's just, you know, one of the reasons it didn't work. A few other cinematic universes have made this. Even DC Universe made this mistake. The DCEU made that mistake with Dawn of Justice. So that is one thing that kind of worries me. I know James Gunn kind of said from the beginning that this is not going to be like a Marvel thing, where Marvel kind of was like when it started with Iron Man, it was almost like it could take place in the real world, you know, until you got to the Iron Man aspect of it. But it almost felt like with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they took the real world and slowly formed it into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right.
Whereas DC, James Gunn has straight up said from the beginning, this is a complete fantasy world, a fully developed universe that we're going into. And that's why, you know, we're starting with Superman already in his, you know, days as Superman. So I get what he's going for there. I'm just worried because other cinematic universes have tried this and it hasn't worked out in their favor. There's a reason Marvel's the only one that's still like going, you know, strong as it is. So worried, but, you know, still optimistic, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I totally understand you there. For me, I think the idea of jumping into a DCU world that's already populated and established is really exciting for me. I kind of dig the idea and the concept of maybe be able to see like news reports or a newspaper article of like past, you know, other heroes from different cities having, you know, saved the day or in trouble sort of thing. Like I kind of dig the idea that there's already stuff going on around us as we're just kind of plopped into this world. Like when I think of the addition of somebody like a Mr. Terrific, like I think of like Superman needing to do some I don't want to say reconnaissance work, but, you know, get some information, get some intel, if you will. And Homeboy's got to go to Star Labs briefly to get some information. And as he gets to Star Labs, he sees somebody like Mr. Terrific that maybe describes or opens up the concept of the multiverse and like other worlds and things like that. You know, I can literally see him with like a 5-minute screen time, if you will, 5-10 minute screen time, and then just moving on, like being a part of the movie to help progress the story, but then allowing somebody like Superman and Lois to really be the focal point and continue on with the main story itself. So, you know, when I look at, I get the concern that people definitely have towards it, so I don't want to dismiss it. But if anything, if I could reassure some people, maybe it would just be, if I look at James Gunn's past work, the guy's great when it comes to ensemble casts. You know, like I don't think it's many writers, directors out there that work so well with a big group of people, whether that be main actors, supporting characters, sort of thing. You look at Guardians of the Galaxy, you look at Suicide Squad. I think he gives everybody that's part of the main story their fair shake, great balance to their stories. But I think he also knows how to utilize supporting characters that are there to help push the story forward, but not be the main focus or take away from the story. So just looking at his past work, I definitely do trust James Gunn, but I'm very much aware as to why people certainly feel the way that they do. And so if you thought this was the only casting announcements that we had, Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific, and Hawkgirl, you would be wrong, unfortunately, because we also wind up getting Anthony Carrigan wind up joining the cast also, as he's going to be playing a character I honestly never thought I'd get the opportunity to see in live action in Metamorpho. He's going to be jumping on board as well. This comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter. Let me go ahead and bring up this information for you guys. Oh, was that the Hollywood Reporter? I think I got the wrong one. Here we go. Hollywood Reporter, Superman Legacy nabs Barry star Anthony Carrigan as the DC hero Metamorpho. It says, after finding his Clark Kent and Lois, James Gunn is moving furiously to populate his metropolis with a bevy of other DC heroes. Anthony Carrigan, fresh off an Emmy nomination for his standout work in HBO's Barry, has been cast as classic DC character Metamorpho, aka archaeologist turned hero Rex Mason. He joins the feature that will formally launch the DC's new universe that they have right now. And they also mentioned the idea of the other 3 actors as well. Anthony Carrigan did come out and make a statement in regards to it. He says, it'll certainly be a bit of a jump. I'm excited to shake things up. NoHo Hank is such a specific character, and I'm excited to play someone completely different and surprise people with just being unrecognizable. It says, I was able to find things that I just love about the character. He's so low-key incredible. I'm surprised that more people haven't heard of him. I think he's one of the coolest characters out there. So to bring him to light is something really special and also really, really unique. So it seems as though Anthony Carrigan is pretty hyped to get this opportunity to go ahead and play Metamorpho. And I think another big win. And, Anthony, if anything, he's got a pretty substantial track record, I think, with working with WB. He was in the Gotham series, if I'm not mistaken, that was on Fox. And I think he also played maybe several characters from the Flash series, if I'm not mistaken. You guys might have to correct me on that. But where have you seen Anthony Carrigan in any of his past work? And what are your thoughts about the idea of Metamorpho being brought to life? What do you think, Indy?
I've always been a fan of Metamorpho as a character, just because of powers and backstory. So it's one of those characters like Zatanna that I really want to see on screen. So I was excited to see this announcement. The actor that's honestly going to play him, I wasn't too familiar with. But if you just look at him and look at the character, I feel that the fit as far as look is there for the character. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm looking forward to this. This is one casting and one announcement that has me super excited. That and the guy Gardner, you know what I'm saying, announcement. So, hey, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and for those of you wondering, Metamorpho, there is a connection with him and Mr. Terrific, I believe. I don't know how recent this comic book series is, but apparently there's a DC comic called The Terrifics. I don't know if I don't believe it's a ongoing series any longer, but I believe Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, Plastic Man, and I think somebody else were teammates in there. And I think Metamorpho and maybe also Guy Gardner might have shared membership on Justice League International, if I'm not mistaken, back in the 90s also. So there definitely is some connection between Metamorpho and a couple of these other DCU characters. But I would be interested to see him working alongside somebody like Mr. Terrific in the bigger scheme of things. But I love the choice of Metamorpho in here. So yeah, I'm pretty pumped for this casting.
I'm very curious because in the Justice League animated series, one of Metamorpho's elements that he's able to kind of morph into is kryptonite. So there's a scene where he nearly kills Superman. And I'm wondering if we might see something like that in this movie. If that was the reason Metamorpho's in this, is because he can literally produce kryptonite radiation. And if he's going to use that against Superman, if we get a fight between him and Superman, I'm kind of curious.
Do you know if he could turn into, what is that, nth metal?
Oh, I actually have no idea.
That's one of the things. I ain't gonna lie to you. I was thinking the same thing. So I'm on a Google search right now. It's he could turn into nth metal. Dark Knight Metal would have got a whole lot different if Metamorpho was in more. No, but I was actually looking up to see when that run was for the Terrifics, and it was March 1st, 2018 through September 1st, 2020. It was 30 issues, and it was Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, Plastic Man, and Phantom Girl joined forces to escape the Dark Unit multiverse.
Okay.
So that's honestly fairly in comic speak, that's fairly new. That was a fairly new run, and 30 issues either meant it was really good,
like a year and a half run,
or it was really bad.
Well, that's actually 2.5 years run almost, right?
Yeah.
Shout out to Lawrence for being here with us. He says James Gunn is cooking. Yeah, absolutely. And we haven't even gotten our Lex Luthor cast yet, or at least a Lex Luthor announcement. We're still waiting on that one for sure. He also says Anthony Carrigan played the Mist in The Flash. So if you guys remember that character as well. Marcelino also says Metamorpho and Mr. Terrific being included could hint at a possible Terrific spinoff. It might even be the best Fantastic Four movie. Yeah, you might be on to something, Marcelino. We'll see. I think it'd be dope if he eventually. I do think Mr. Terrific in some point in time will get his own movie. Maybe not solo, but I do think we might get a team movie at some point. What you thinking, Indy?
Metamorpho is transmuted into Nith Metal by Simon Stagg as part of his plot to open a portal into the dark multiverse.
Oh, okay.
I would be interested to see what I would be interested to see what Mr. Terrific and Metamorpho might be working on or discovering here in Superman Legacy. I dig the idea if they were talking about the multiverse, that definitely would just open up a ton of doors and further opportunities for future storylines that they could definitely go down if they want to, like Justice League Incarnate. Maybe making connections with other multiversal characters. But look, one of the things that I will say is I've been so outspoken about I'm kind of over the multiversal kind of movies right now. I definitely just want to enjoy like a standalone comic book character movie. And while I do believe Superman Legacy will definitely be like that, I'm not expecting it to be like Civil War level or like a big crossover event. Like we're bringing all these characters together for a particular, villain that they have to face off against. I definitely do see them very much sort of as just that side, those side characters. Adam, did you see all the hate on Twitter? People saying Gunn is overstuffing his universe like Snyder. I see the comparisons. I see the idea of what people are saying. I personally don't agree, but I do want to pick your brain, Indy. How do you feel about it?
I think the thing went on with Snyder was stuffing characters for the meaning of doing like the team up. You know what I'm saying? Type thing where there was a end in sight and it just happened too quickly. I feel if Snyder would have paced his stuff out further, maybe had a couple of more movies before you tried to do the team up, because it was a thing. It felt, I don't know if they were really doing this, but it felt like they were trying to keep up what Marvel was doing, not knowing that Marvel had like a 10-year plan and what they were doing, and did the individual movies in order to support the Avengers grouping up. I feel as if James Gunn is taking more of a Marvel approach to what it's going to be. I don't think you're going to run into like, oh my God, here's the Justice League. You know what I'm saying? Next year. He's going to develop each one of these characters, going to have a personality, going to have that growth. Yes, you will have some interacting, because I don't care what anybody says. It's a superhero universe. If you see Superman, he's not going to be the only superhero in the world. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be stuff going on. They might not interact, but the world should be open to other people being around. Is he stuffing it? I don't think so. I don't think Blue Beetle feels like it's going to be stuffed into a universe. I don't feel like Superman Legacy feel like it's going to be stuffed into the universe. I feel like they stand alone well enough, but they have the realization that there is a universe, not that he's trying to stuff a bunch of stuff into it.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand your point of view for sure. I totally agree. So yeah, some people are going to be worried, but I do think James Gunn has a track record to show that, hey, even if it comes to a lot of characters, he knows how to balance them out extremely well. I think he's using them just to prove the point of, hey, we have superheroes in this world. But I do think it will very much be a Superman and Lois movie for sure.
There was definitely a lot of characters stuffed into Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy, to the point where at times you feel like there's a lot of stuff going on, but think about the individual developments of each one of those characters. You ended up feeling for each individual character. You felt pain for a character that said group all the time.
Yeah, that's the talent of James Gunn for sure. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. 4 huge casting announcements this week. Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner, Metamorpho, all joining the DCU. Here's a beautiful image of, actually, they don't have Metamorpho's image up here so far, but these are technically our DCU characters that we have populating this world. James Gunn has mentioned Jolo will be their Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle will be in their DCU. It may be its own standalone movie. I don't know if that's going to be necessarily canon to his DCU, but the character itself as Blue Beetle will definitely be brought over to the DCU. But a nice little, and again, Metamorpho's not even on this list, but a nice little cast, if you ask me, guys.
You mean he's going to use the same actor that was established in a role in order to bring it over into his DCEU and make him that role?
That's what it sounds. I believe that's what James Gunn said. Yeah.
There's a reason to flash bomb at the box office.
Okay.
I'm also kind of curious. So like we have the Aquaman movie coming out too. But we also kind of like see that Aquaman is still like in that DCEU universe at the very end of Flashpoint. So I'm kind of wondering if that's actually going to be the very last DCEU movie. And so it'll be kind of like we go to Blue Beetle, which is DCU, and then we have one last DCEU movie with Aquaman. I'm wondering if that's how they're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels that way. He's been pretty open about that. Superman Legacy will be the beginning of that DCU canon. I know we also have 2 television series, Waller along with Creature Commandos, that do play, I believe, into the bigger world. But movie-wise, I think the kickoff is for Superman Legacy. I honestly don't expect them to be promoting Aquaman 2 very much. I mean, look, we got the strike now also, so they can't even be promoting any of these movies. I think Jolo Maraduena, who plays Jaime Reyes, literally said, like, yeah, I can't promote my movie anymore now that he's on strike. So I wonder if Warner Brothers is just like, look, let's just get these movies out. Let's wash our hands of this stuff and just kind of move on. So I am kind of curious if there'll be any sort of promotion for Aquaman 2. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts on the current DCU. Are you worried and concerned about all these characters? Do you think James Gunn's got it in the bag? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And speaking of promoting, we got ourselves a bunch of trailers here this week. Also, guys, again, all these studios promoting their stuff before the strike. This is probably their last trailers that we might get the opportunity to see. I don't know. Maybe they can still drop trailers. I don't know what studios can and can't do. I just know that actors can't portray them. Lauren says Lost Kingdom is going to flop hard. Probably, man. Probably. I'm kind of hoping Blue Beetle doesn't flop hard. I really want people to go out and support Blue Beetle for sure. But the box office trajectory has just been, and the box office trajectory has just been terrible. So I'm not expecting Aquaman 2 to repeat its billion-dollar performance.
You do not understand the power of a shirtless Jason Momoa.
I mean, maybe I don't. I mean, maybe I don't. I mean, if this movie makes another $1 billion, or at least I would say, I think if this movie makes a high 700 million something, Warner Brothers has got to be happy with that. Take that money and run. It may not be $1 billion, but yeah, that would be probably the power of Jason Momoa shirtless. You might be right, Indy, if it makes that type of money.
Maybe that'll be like kind of the definitive factor. If it does well, it's a DCU movie. If it flops, it's the finale for the DCEU.
Yeah, just trying to wash their hands of it.
If it flops, it's because The Rock like Aquaman.
Oh God. So we got ourselves 4 new trailers here this week for us to dive into. I don't know if you've all caught all of them. I think I might have watched, let's just knock this one out of the way first. Twisted Metal, series that Indy's looking forward to reviewing for you guys at some point in time. Twisted Metal coming to us from Anthony Mackie. We finally got ourselves our first full trailer from this series. Did this get you hyped for it a little bit more, Indy, or what?
I was worried that this show was going to have no type of story at all. Like, I had no idea what they were going to do with it. I didn't know, because Twisted Metal, to me, this is me playing it as a kid. I don't remember a storyline in Twisted Metal until Twisted Metal Black. And then when I saw the first like teaser, I was like, well, that's not the sweet tooth from Twisted Metal Black. So what is going on here? I'm actually loving the concept and what they're doing, as in they have runners to go from place to place. They get paid to run, you know what I'm saying, stuff to the cities that are afloat. And it just makes so much sense that you're running through territories, you know. And to me, it's inspired by a bunch of things, you know what I'm saying, that goes on. But if they have any of the action like ×2 that Death Race had and can make this somewhat believable, this show is going to be freaking amazing. And you'll possibly see a resurgence of, you know what I'm saying, Twisted Metal, which I think this is one of the things they're doing, is testing the water just to see how interested people are in this, to see if we see a return to the series. And I want a Twisted Metal so bad. And Anthony Mackie deserves to get his flowers. He's been doing this for a long time. He's like a young Samuel L. Jackson. He's been in a bunch of movies that he doesn't get credit for. you know, and deserves to lead, you know what I'm saying, different stuff. He's got Captain America: New World. That's the new title, right? Because they keep
New
changing it. Is
Brave
it Brave
New
World?
World.
Brave New World. Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll change it again next week probably. He's got that. He's got this. This man deserves to just succeed, you know what I'm saying, in life. He's one of those actors who I feel doesn't get enough credit for what he does because he does everything right. There's no controversy around him, so he doesn't get the big publicity that other people get.
Yeah, I do feel that way about Anthony Mackie. I hope we get more trailers and more insight into this particular series, because like you, when I saw this trailer, I was thinking to myself, did Twisted Metal ever have a storyline? I was like, I don't remember ever hearing about a storyline. So the fact that they made him a runner to go between these two cities, I was like, that's pretty cool. I was like, I guess that's the Twisted Metal storyline. I really didn't know, but I always assumed they didn't really have one. So the fact that you confirmed that for me, I feel like thank you for making me not feel like I went crazy there for a minute. But the humor is definitely there. I love Anthony Mackie's delivery on the line of like, you know, I'll give you whatever you want. And he's like, two-ply toilet paper. And he's like, think bigger. Three-ply? It just made me, it just died laughing. It was just, I can't wait to get into the world. It looks fun. I wasn't that excited for it, but the humor definitely feels like it hits, and the trailer does have me intrigued. So I want to see more to see if I'm really gonna dive on board. But I thought this was a great first trailer to get people excited. What about you, Stuart? How'd you feel about this though?
So I only played a little bit of Twisted Metal back in the day, so I'm not super familiar with the story. But just looking at the cast, looking at the production of the show, it definitely looks like something very intriguing. Loving Anthony Mackie, and then I also, of course, love Stephanie Beatrice. Both of them amazing. So I'm excited to see the two of them in the show working together. And then it's weird. Okay, so I think I saw an actor I really like in the trailer, but I can't like find. Oh, what?
I thought you was gonna skip over Nev Campbell and just totally disrespect her like that too.
Oh, Nev Campbell's in that, huh? That's right. I forgot she was in the trailer.
Well, not her. There was someone else that I saw. I forgot his name, but he was, funny enough, also in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He played like Jason Mantzoukas. I don't know. I swear I thought I saw him in the teaser, but I cannot find him on IMDb like in this movie. So I'm kind of curious if it's just someone who looks like him. But regardless, it looks like it's going to be a fun series. So I will definitely be checking it out when it comes out.
Oh, and give it up. I'm sorry. Give it up for AEW and Samoa Joe being the perfect body double for Sweet Tooth.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. So he's doing the body double, but Will Arnett, what's his name? Arnett is doing the voice.
Doing the voice, yeah.
That's gonna be interesting to see how that comes together. But I've liked the Sweet Tooth scenes that we've seen so far. So
I love Will Arnett's voice. It's freaking hilarious. So I can't wait.
And then we also wind up getting a trailer for Wonka. Timothy Chalamet is going to be playing Willy Wonka here. This is going to be a prequel to the Willy Wonka franchise before he became the Chocolate Man. We wind up getting ourselves a trailer for it here this past week. Have you guys checked out the trailer at all? Have you seen this one?
Bro, this trailer sold me on this. I'm kind of upset because now I feel like the Johnny Depp led Wonka should have been a prequel. Like, I feel like they wasted. That was Johnny Depp, right? Yeah. I think they wasted that movie just being a retelling, you know what I'm saying, of the same story. Because to me,
wasn't that a sequel?
Nope.
It was a retelling.
It was a retelling. I feel like the original movie was perfect.
I don't remember.
I didn't want a sequel. Having a prequel to me would have been good in order to lead to a sequel, because I feel like it would have led you to have more understanding on why Wonka did things to define a sequel, you know what I'm saying, happening, because the character would have been more developed. Timothy Chalamet can do no wrong right now, except for who he dates at times. I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to him in this role, but more than anything, I'm geeked for Hugh Grant being a Oompa Loompa.
Oh yeah.
I'm like the top-notch cast that they have in this to play parts, whether it's Rowan Atkinson, Olivia Colman, you know what I'm saying, just the different people in here. You know it's going to be good. You know it's going to be good. when they go, who can we get to be an Oompa Loompa? Who hasn't been an Oompa Loompa yet? and you know they had a list they were going down. They're like, The Rock, nah, he's down on Hollywood right now. Maybe John Cena. Maybe it'd be fun if we brought Johnny Depp back and had him play an Oompa Loompa. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like, you know what? Who wouldn't you guess to be one? And somebody just went, well, Hugh Grant's kind of dry. Let's make him an Oompa Loompa and make him colorful so he can show a different side of himself. You know what I'm saying? Like it worked. That right there, seeing that him in the little jar sold me on this 110%.
I kind of figured they were just capitalizing on his success in Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That
was
movie was
another good movie.
So good for it being I wish it came out at a different time.
Yeah,
like,
it was a lot
really
better
good.
than I expected.
What did you think about the Wonka trailer? Did you get the opportunity to see it, Stuart?
I did. I really like the way this trailer is shot. Just kind of it almost feels like a Wes Anderson in the sense that like there's like a lot of shots where everything's so centered, but it doesn't look like bad type of centered. It looks like really good. And then I think Timothée Chalamet's a really great actor. It looks like he has a lot of charisma. It doesn't really feel like, if I have any nitpick I have to give to this, is that it doesn't really feel like it can be connected to the Willy Wonka movie, the original, only because like I feel like this movie kind of forgets that Willy Wonka was an asshole, because he comes off as like super kind and caring in this. And it's like, you remember in Willy Wonka when 4 people got hurt in his factory and he's just like, okay, let's move on. It feels like they kind of forgot that about his character. So
let's see what made him an asshole though.
That's
the
what I'm
whole
wondering
thing.
too.
Why
That's
is
what
he
I'm
an
wondering.
asshole?
Like maybe that's where they're going with this movie. And if that's the case, that's kind of cool. Also, the Chocolate Cartel is probably one of the funniest things I have ever heard. So that got me sold right there.
Yeah, I think what got me sold on this was the idea that Timothée Chalamet just doesn't come across as like the creepy weirdo guy.
He doesn't?
I don't think he comes across as the creepy weirdo guy to me. Like when I look at the other iterations of Wonka, like Johnny Depp was just above and beyond. I was like, no, this is just I don't even know if I can watch this movie. Like he just gives me that creep factor. But there is a charm to Timothée Chalamet in here that I am fascinated in, especially when he's working opposite the other girl in here as well. But like you, Stuart, I am kind of curious as to like where, like how they get to that point. And I do think that they will definitely give hints towards it. Maybe, a big moment happens towards the climax that definitely gives him sort of a different perspective. And who knows, maybe they are hoping that this Wonka movie is so good that they get another sequel to this movie that will then fill in those gaps before we even get into the first original Willy Wonka. And then we'll have our trilogy, if you will.
Maybe this is like the modern E.T. or something like that, where the original Oompa Loompa is like his best friend and he's trying to get him home or help him out. And maybe something happens to that particular Oompa Loompa that he's close to. And that's why he employs the other Oompa Loompas in his factory.
He did say that like the Oompa Loompas lived in like a really like shitty kind of area. So that's why he let them like stay in his factory. So I'm wondering if that will be like what plays into the movie.
But I did like the trailer. The trailer definitely won me over. It looks like it's going to be a fun time. The aesthetics look great. I love how it's shot. Definitely looks. When does this movie drop? It does say this Christmas. It feels like it's prepared to be like a holiday type of movie. They definitely have gone above and beyond. But I do think Timothée Chalamet will do a great job for this film. Let's
go, Tim.
Yeah, for sure. We also got ourselves a brand new Blue Beetle trailer that wind up dropping, probably the final trailer that we get before this movie winds up coming. The soundtrack on this movie is incredible. I absolutely love the soundtrack. But we definitely get more visuals in here. They definitely hyped up the action for this movie for sure. We wind up getting ourselves more insight into visually, at least into the villain, the bad guy. I don't know whether or not this is like the main villain or not, but that and a lot of Reyes family. For sure. But this trailer definitely continues to win me over. If you guys haven't watched it, please go ahead and do so. It's a rather long trailer, coming in about 3 minutes. Let me ask you first, though, Stuart, too long of a trailer? Does it give too much away, or do you think this is a good happy medium?
It's a really long it's long for a trailer, yes, but I don't think it gives too much away. I actually think like the only thing it really kind of gives away is a lot of the really cool action, which the only thing that's going to kind of suck about that is then when you kind of see it on the big screen, it's not going to be as exciting. But in terms of plot, I think that they do a good job of not giving too much away in that area. But yeah, overall, man, Common Rider Beetleborg looks pretty cool.
What do you think, Indy?
Kamen Rider Beetleborg Guyver, the dark hero. That's everything's inspired off of something. I think the visuals in the trailer look really good. This is the first time that the suit has looked good for me. You know, I guess because I got to see it more in movement and what was going on. Anything that George Lopez is in, I'm gonna watch. So it didn't matter if I wanted to see this movie or not. I support George Lopez and everything, whether it's bad or good. I even watched the freaking Chihuahua movie.
Oh wow, okay.
Not only watched the Chihuahua movie, watched it while eating Taco Bell just to support a George Lopez. So I don't like Stuart said, I don't think the trailer gave anything away. I think the trailer was more of hype to hype it up. It might have been a bunch of B-roll that didn't get used. Remember, there's a lot of trailers that come out there, especially superhero movies. You might not even see that in the movie. It's just to show you how things are going to work. I like the fact of the reveal of the villain, you know what I'm saying, and how that was going to go to show who he's going to be up against. I really want it to be more of, which it probably will be. I was looking for the Reach. I was looking for them just to go definitively be like, this is the Reach, you know, and have that go. But I'm looking forward to this. The voice for the Scarab throws me off a little bit.
Becky G.
Yeah, good. I love Becky G. I don't like her as the voice of the Scarab because I think I'm just used to that. And I don't want to get hate for this, that male sarcasticness, you know what I'm saying, in the Scarab, you know what I'm saying, almost belittling him, you know, as he's going through. Not the Scarab seems too accepting and helpful.
And that's from the animated series?
The animated series in the comic. Yeah, okay. I'm just used to the, you're not doing this right, Jaime. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm taking over. Like, I'm not used to, oh, you have guns. This is how you use them. It just seems too much like Siri to me.
Yeah,
no, I feel you there. Yeah, no, I think
there was one gag that I just don't think it'll work as well with this voice. But it was like the gag in early in the comic books that the Scarab did not like Jaime Reyes' dad for like some particular reason. So it would just like act super like hostile towards him. And I think that would work with the voice that we get from Young Justice. I don't know if that gag would work as well with this like more AI sounding.
I can't. Threat perceived.
Yeah.
She just sounds nice. Like she doesn't even have the voice she had from Power Rangers. She seemed like a, you know what I'm saying, like a dick in Power Rangers that had an aggressive tone. I would have wanted more of that voice than what she's doing now. Like it just sounds like Siri to me.
Well, maybe they have some moments together where they actually talk and have some actual conversations a little bit further into the movie. We are just checking out trailers, so maybe there's a lot more to this movie than we haven't even had the opportunity to see yet. I personally don't think that it spoiled too much. I mean, I do think it maybe showed a lot. Like there's, you know, the Nana scene. I would have loved to have seen that more in the movies than seen in the trailer. I think that would have been a great pop in the movie theaters. But I do think there's a lot of action in this particular trailer and a lot of like special effects and showcasing the suit. The suit looks fantastic. I think, you know, people have been really getting on movies cases lately with how bad some of the CGI has looked, but it feels like they definitely have been paying attention to that and really been working on it here in the movie. We'll see how the movie looks overall, but trailer wise, I do think that they have some really great shots in here. I think the villain costume looks fantastic, and I really love all the shots of Jaime Reyes without the mask on, but still in his suit. Like I love that sequence of him running away from the fireball towards the end. I think that looks great also. So I'm excited to see what Jolo will do as Jaime Reyes. But yeah, I thought this Blue Beetle trailer certainly did its job for its final one. And then last trailer that we had this week, guys, Ahsoka. Ahsoka wind up dropping here. We got about a 2-minute trailer in here. Really, I almost feel, Stuart, I was just about to say, I almost feel like this gives more, I don't want to say gives more away, but gives us more insight into the story than like what any Blue Beetle trailer has certainly given us, as I think we got some pretty interesting connections here with Ahsoka and Sabine really highlighted in this particular trailer. The action looks incredible. We get our very first look at Thrawn, which a lot of people have been really anticipating in here. Even Hera's got a lot more lines as we see Mary Elizabeth Winstead playing Hera in here also. It just really showcases how vast and wide this series is going to be. And it feels very much like a Star Wars Rebels series just now in live action. But I absolutely love this trailer. I was already hyped for this. I don't know if you could have gotten me any more hype, but this trailer certainly managed to do so. Let me start with you first, Indy, though, in regards to this. Have you checked out the trailer? And if so, what did you think?
Yes, I checked out Star Wars Rebels Season 4.
Do you still feel like that's Ezra as
yes.
the yeah?
Yes, I still feel like that's to me, it makes no sense for it to be anybody else. It can't. The only person it feels like it should be if it was somebody else was Anakin, and it can't be Anakin. Like that's already eliminated. So to me, it has to be Ezra. No, we're not talking about Miller.
But you like the trailer overall, though? It did it for you?
I liked it a lot, man. Like, I liked it a lot. And now I have a fetish for people cosplaying as Ahsoka for some reason.
Oh, God.
I didn't have it before, but some reason after this trailer, you know what I'm saying? I had it. And I prefer it to be 40-year-old women and older that do it. I guess that's a kink now. It made me interested in seeing this. I've been burnt out on Star Wars content, on old Star Wars content, like pre-Rey. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm ready for new stories. I'm ready to see what the future holds for it. And this instantly, you know what I'm saying, locked me back into what's going on. Like, I need to know what happened with Ahsoka in order to be able to continue my Star Wars journey. So I'm happy for it. I'm looking forward to it. And man, all the paint in the world can't do nothing to cover up that beautiful woman.
What about you, Stuart? What you thinking about this trailer, man?
Definitely agree with Indy. This trailer for Rebels Season 5 looks awesome. But yeah, like I really love the trailer does give a little bit away, but we still don't know like the main like elements of like Thrawn's plan overall, why it took him this long to finally kind of reemerge. And we also don't know what happened to Ezra yet, and I'm glad that they're keeping all those things still a secret. I love the casting. The more I'm looking at them, in this trailer, the more I'm seeing I'm seeing how well they match with the characters from Star Wars Rebels. I even love how the mural painting, it doesn't try to capture the actors' faces. It tries to capture the look and style from Star Wars Rebels, which I thought was really cool, because in a way you can now almost look at Star Wars Rebels as like a story being told while looking at the mural, basically, of all the characters together. So yeah, no complaints from this trailer. Everything is great. I love the way Thrawn looks. One slight difference I kind of noticed from him in the trailer compared to in the animated show is that you can it's very subtle, but you can kind of see pupils in his eyes instead of it being just glowing, straight red. Yeah, but it still looks intimidating. Like, he's still someone I wouldn't want to have a staring contest with. But yeah, everything about this looks cool. And then I also am really intrigued by our two antagonists. One of them seemingly knows Anakin, or knew Anakin back in the day. So I'm wondering if he was like a youngling when Anakin was a Jedi, or if he was just an older Jedi that just somehow survived Order 66. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot the number. It's an easy number. If he was just a Jedi that survived Order 66. Yeah, a great trailer.
Yeah, I am fascinated by the antagonists too here, and Balin and Shin, especially with them having orange lightsabers, or at least it looks like a version of an orange lightsaber. I do think that there is something more to them. I don't even know if they would necessarily consider themselves Sith, but who knows? Like, they in the trailer he says, I'm no Jedi, so maybe they got mistaken for Jedi, but clearly they're not Jedi. But I also wonder, does that automatically mean that they're Sith with different colored lightsabers, or do they consider themselves something else, like Ahsoka probably does, but just maybe a different version of that?
Maybe
so I am. What you say?
Maybe a gray.
Well, maybe, yeah,
Like a
maybe something
gray
along those
Jedi.
lines for sure. They could definitely introduce that. So I would agree with you, Stuart. I am really fascinated by them, and I think for me the really standout is the Ahsoka and Sabine connection. I am interested in the idea of seeing just how much training actually did take place. Is she force sensitive? I don't believe that they ever hinted at the idea that she was in the series. If I'm wrong, Stuart, please let me know. But I think they've mentioned before, Kanan and even Dave Filoni has mentioned, like, everybody has the Force in them. Whether or not there's a capability of maybe tapping into it, I think is another story. So whether or not Sabine's at that point of being Force sensitive, I don't know. But I do find it interesting that Sabine's calling Ahsoka master in here, talking about that she's walked away. It's just like, how much stuff you going to walk away from, Ahsoka, right? Like, I am kind of curious if that's a challenge and that's something that she has to grow as a character into, or just give us some insight as to why she stepped away from Anakin in the Order. Why did she wind up stepping away from Sabine? And how far along in her training has she kind of come? But I love this. This looks like it's going to be a great adventure here, and it definitely makes me want to go back and rewatch Star Wars Rebels just to kind of get ready and prepared for this. Because yeah, I think they're doing everything right. So I'm super excited for Ahsoka. That drops August 23rd, ladies and gentlemen, August 23rd. So mark your calendars. So yeah, a lot of promoting here as they try and get as much promotional material out as they can before the strike. But we had 4 big trailers here this week, guys. Let us know in the comment section box below which trailer you appreciated the most. We definitely would love to know your thoughts on those in the comment section box below.
Tell us what trailer it was and why it was Heels.
Oh, did they have a trailer that dropped this week too? Heels?
The week before.
The week before, right? Okay.
Yeah,
because I remember you talking about it.
Heels and Twisted Metal drop on the same day.
Hey, double duty, man. They're gonna have you busy. All right, we got 2 more topics for you guys here before we get into live viewer questions today. But let's go ahead and knock this one out. This comes to us from Empire Online, or Empire Magazine Online. James Gunn and the MCU are back in the news. Even though James Gunn himself is not going to be writing or directing for Marvel anytime soon, now that he's got his job as the co-CEO of DC Studios, it doesn't mean that he potentially didn't get the opportunity to set things up or at least drop some ideas that the MCU could eventually utilize later on down their phases. And one of those, apparently, is that James Gunn and Chris Pratt have had conversations and talks in the past about the potential idea for a legendary Star-Lord MCU solo movie. I find this pretty interesting that they talked about this together, to the point to where the amount of details that James Gunn kind of gives makes me wonder, like, have they sat down and actually written a storyboard for this, or at least an outline to a script as to what this could potentially be? But let's go ahead and dive into this. Even though we're not probably won't see another Guardians of the Galaxy movie from James Gunn, I do think that it opens up the idea that we could see at least some of these characters return in some way or another. This comes to us from EmpireOnline.com. Says James Gunn hints at Guardian spinoff featuring Star-Lord becoming a reality. It says, if you stuck around, and why wouldn't you? It's a Marvel's film. You know how this works. For the end credit scene of Guardians of the Galaxy 3, then you'll have seen the brief stinger featuring Chris Pratt's Peter Quill adapting to life back on Earth, sharing breakfast with grandfather, played by Greg Henry. And then the title card, the legendary Star-Lord will return. While that suggests potential future outings for the character, James Gunn is suggesting it actually could happen. He says, yet while thoughts on the character's return might have turned towards him showing up in the next Avengers film or cameoing elsewhere, Gunn in his director's commentary for the film hints that there's a chance for a Star-Lord standalone. He says, we always want to give somebody a little something special. And Chris and I forever have talked about how great it would be to be able to do a legendary Star-Lord movie, a story with Star-Lord on Earth, trying to adapt to the environment of Earth, if in the same way that somebody else might try to adapt to the alien environment of outer space. He's a fish out of water in just kind of regular water. So I can't wait to see it, is what James Gunn winds up saying. So he seems very much like they have definitely given this a lot of thought. But I can't lie, I'm always a big fan of a fish out of water type of concept. While I do worry about the idea of James Gunn not being officially attached to write or direct it, I personally do like the concept, and I do think if anybody can pull it off, Chris Pratt certainly can, with just his personality and charisma for sure. But let me throw this over to you first, Indy, in regards to what you hear James Gunn saying. Do you think that this is a potential for actually happening? Or now that James Gunn is gone, do you expect the MCU to just be like, fuck it, let's just move on and do something different?
I definitely feel like that's potential happening. But I feel like I don't care about Star-Lord. I feel like the trilogy of Guardians of the Galaxy was Star-Lord's story. And I'm not interested in seeing what happens with him, you know what I'm saying, going into the future. There's too many other characters who I feel backstories we haven't really went into, who I'd be more interested in where they're going to go and what's going to happen, that I'd rather follow them than, you know what I'm saying, deal something with him. Although I love the character, I feel like it's time for him to go on to bigger and better things, and a spinoff to me isn't the proper way to handle it. I'd rather have them focus on somebody like Nova, you know what I'm saying, and start going into that and have it to where maybe Star-Lord appears. Like it's time for him to step into the secondary role on what goes on. And even if they wanted to have us do something with Groot, do something with Gamora, you know, it's other characters who I'm more interested in what they're doing than Star-Lord himself.
I wonder if this is something that would maybe set up perfectly as like a special presentation on Disney Plus or something like that, instead of maybe necessarily a one-off for the Star-Lord character. But what do you think, Stuart, when you hear these words from James Gunn? Do you think there's a potential of this happening?
I was kind of agreeing with Indy up until you made that last point of it being a special. So, like, I wouldn't really want to see a Star-Lord solo movie that's like, just him as the main focus on Earth. Because, like Indy said, it felt like his story was kind of complete. And to me, it's not that I don't want to see Star-Lord again. It's just that I don't really think he needs to have his own movie. I think it would just be cool to see him now as a secondary character, like he was in Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame and Thor Ragnarok, Love and Thunder. I think that's where I'd like to see him in the future. But I also think because there was an implication that they might be doing another holiday special at the very end of the previous one, I think it would actually be perfect if they wanted to bring him back and maybe like the little bow on top of his story arc, if they just wanted to give us like a holiday special with him spending Christmas with his new family. And then of course there's like some, big threat going on that's, small enough to not be on the big screen, but big enough to ruin his Christmas. So I could see them playing with something like that and that working out. I'm not worried with James Gunn no longer being involved, because I feel like Chris Pratt's been playing this character since 2014, so almost 10 years now. So I feel like he's got a good grasp on, the character himself. I'm sure that like he knows exactly, how a character would be in certain situations. So I feel like if they get a writer that doesn't understand Guardians the same way James Gunn does, you still have Chris Pratt to kind of correct the writer, when it's needed.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with both of your sentiments here for sure. I will say James Gunn has been vocal about, he personally, at least the way that he feels he's constructed this trilogy, feels like this trilogy has been a very much a Rocket the Raccoon story, with his story kind of coming full circle in the last the third installment here. But I think when you look overall at Star-Lord's story, I mean, I do feel like it's kind of wrapped up, the idea of him being taken from Earth, and he wind up got an opportunity to confront his dad and ego in the second one. He's established himself as far as like part of the Ravengers, or at least just a group that he's created around himself. He's also gained a sister in Mantis as well, and now he's been able to return home at the end of Guardians, right? It does seem like you have already wrapped up his story. Where do you kind of go from here? If the idea of a story is literally just revolving around the idea of like just a fish out of water, I just don't know if that equates to like we need $150 million budget for this movie. You know, I feel like this could easily be a one-off sort of special if they definitely wanted to go that route, or continue to use Chris Pratt, like you guys said, as cameos or secondary member to whether that be Avengers or another team. You know, I definitely do think that we'll see Guardians of the Galaxy again at some point in time. I don't know if it'll be like a Galaxy Guardians of the Galaxy 4 or not, but I would be curious if Star-Lord would ever return to that team. Is he going to end up becoming an Avenger later on at some point in time? So I do expect to see him again. And I dig the idea. I just don't know if it warrants a full solo movie. There's definitely a lot more characters I definitely would like to see get that opportunity. But again, I'm personally not tired of Chris Pratt as Star-Lord. I want to see him back again for sure. But yeah, maybe just not as a full-fledged solo outing. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below. How do you guys feel about the idea of Chris Pratt potentially getting a Star-Lord solo film? Is that something you guys want to see? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And then last but not least, we got one last topic for you guys. Alita Army Unite, as Alita Battle Angel is back in the news. I had the opportunity to see this movie in theaters. It definitely surprised me. Definitely raved about it after getting the opportunity to check it out. Always trying to push for people to go ahead and check out Alita Battle Angel if you haven't done so. But it's been years since we've gotten ourselves any idea of a potential sequel. Alita, based off of just its box office, I think maybe barely broke even at the box office. It was definitely one of those films that I think maybe didn't necessarily get all the marketing and promotion that it certainly deserved. So I don't think a lot of people went out to see it at the movie theaters, but I do think word of mouth certainly helped it get to the point of maybe barely breaking even, if you will. But it definitely has wind up bringing out an entire army of supporters for the Alita character. Now, I do believe that there were talks of potentially maybe not only doing one sequel, but also maybe doing 3 sequels based, or I should say not only one sequel, but an additional sequel based off of the amount of story that's certainly involved. But it's been kind of up in the air until this week, as Screen Rant is in fact reporting to us that James Cameron, there's so many Jameses in Hollywood, that James Cameron has come out and mentioned the idea that, you know what, we might be working on something for you guys. We might be working on something. This comes to us from Screen Rant. Again, Alita Battle Angel 2 and 3 seemingly confirmed by James Cameron. So there's hope, ladies and gentlemen. Hope continues. So let's go ahead and dive into this article here real quick. It says, after years of uncertainty, producer James Cameron has seemingly confirmed the Alita Battle Angel 2 and a third film are actually moving forward. It says, now, however, in a recent interview with Forbes regarding why he chose to sell his California mansion, Cameron, in his explanation, seemingly reveals that multiple Alita Battle Angel sequels are happening. The producer doesn't reveal any details or timelines, but development will presumably take place between his work on the 3 remaining Avatar films. He says, and on Avatar, I'm working in Wellington and Los Angeles, and on the new Alita Battle Angel films, plural, I'll be working in Austin. So it just doesn't make sense for us anymore, in the sense of, I guess, maybe moving back and forth. It says, earlier this year, Rodriguez revealed that Cameron had outlined general storylines for Alita Battle Angels 2 and 3. This followed several months worth of other smaller updates and reports in which stars and creative talent expressed their eagerness to return for an additional film. It is worth noting, though, that despite Cameron's promising comments, there have been no official announcements from Disney regarding additional sequels as of yet. I does say one of the big reasons it's taken so long to get off the ground is because the first movie, despite making its money back in the box office, wasn't exactly a runaway hit at $405 million. So yeah, not a lot of people went and saw it at the movie theaters, but I do think those that certainly did see this film certainly have big things to say about it. For me personally, look, I'm here for it, man. Give it to me. I like this. This seems promising to me. I think James Cameron is probably far enough along with his Avatar sequels. I don't want to say to let other people handle it, but I'm sure there's probably things behind the scenes that could probably get done without him having to be directly there and directly a part of it. I do wonder also if James Cameron has come out with an outline for Alita 2 and 3. How involved is he going to be? Is he going to be just a writer, a co-writer? Is he actually going to get behind the camera himself and possibly do it? One of the things that I think James Cameron has mentioned in the past is one of the reasons he thinks maybe Alita didn't do too well is because Robert Rodriguez was behind the camera. I don't know if that's true or not, but I would be interested to see if that's something that James Cameron would be trying to do in regards to directing one of these movies. But regardless, I think we need more Alita Battle Angel in our lives. So this is definitely promising. Again, nothing confirmed or official from the studio itself. But listen, if James Cameron says he wants to do a movie, I think after seeing The Way of Water and the $2 billion that movie wind up making at the box office, hey, James, you want to make something? Go for it, man. We are not going to step in your way whatsoever. So that's my my level of excitement for this news. What about you, Stuart? You've heard this. What did you think of the first Alita movie? And are you excited for the potential for more sequels?
Before I give my thoughts, I got to make sure I heard you correctly. Did he actually say it wasn't successful because he wasn't behind the camera because Robert Rodriguez was?
I swear there was a comment out there. I'm gonna look it up right now while you talk. Go ahead.
Okay, well, let me just first say that is one of the douchiest things you can say as a producer. So, like, wow. But yeah, no, I actually really liked Alita Battle Angel. I kind of regret not seeing that movie in theaters because I didn't watch it until 2020 when I had like nothing else to do. So I was like, hey, I can't work right now, so I might as well watch a bunch of movies that I missed out on. Definitely regretted not seeing this movie in theaters. It was a lot of fun, really great, animation all throughout the entire movie. Like the VFX artist did such an amazing job. It was just fun. I would love to see this world continue because I feel like there's at the very least a trilogy's worth of story to tell with this franchise.
I'm looking for the quote, but I can't find the quote. So maybe I'm making shit up in my head, y'all. I'll keep looking for this though, but maybe I'm incorrect on that comment. But I thought I swore I saw a comment like that, or maybe it was just somebody speculating something. So ixnay on what I mentioned there before. What about you, Indy? How are you feeling about this sequel potential?
I've always been a huge fan of the manga and the OVA animated we had to come out for this. So when the original movie came out, I was very excited for it, but I was also hesitant because of such adaptations like Ghost in the Shell. I feel like this totally put an end to the anime can't be adapted to live action. You know what I'm saying? Talk. And I feel like Alita being so good is one of the reasons why we're getting One Piece, why we're getting, why we're getting these other live actions that are coming out. I'm for this 110%. I love the actress that played in the title role, and it's one of my favorite, mangas to go back and read. So any Alita news I can get, I'm for it, but I'm in the same place Marcelino is. James Cameron has a tendency to announce stuff before he even started, on it. So I'm for Alita, the sequel, in 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not expecting this to be like anytime next week whatsoever. So yeah, you might.
You mean we're not getting a trailer tomorrow?
I was hoping for it, man, but yeah, nah. And yeah, you know what? Maybe I definitely am completely wrong on that comment because one of the things from Variety magazine, James Cameron and Robert Rodriguez actually did an interview together, and the article starts off, "The two men are old friends." So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I doubt he would throw him under the bus like
it
that.
It could have been a joke, like him, them being close and him making like a joke about it, type deal. But
yeah, possibly. But I am kind of curious if the movie would have made more with James Cameron behind the camera. But Robert Rodriguez is a big enough name for sure, and I think he did a marvelous job on the first one. And I wouldn't be more than excited to see him come back.
I saw that one.
Absolutely love it. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. If you're part of the Alita army, how pumped are you for the possibility of an Alita sequel? Not just one, but potentially two. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section
Wait,
box.
what is Blade doing in the thing?
Yeah.
Those sunglasses on.
Another movie. Maybe that's the role that got him Blade. Like,
I mean,
he already has the costume. Just bring him in.
just bring him in. Yeah. He was pretty good in that movie. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts on the potential Alita Battle Angel film.
That cast in that movie is very underrated. Like,
very underrated.
Very good movie.
I absolutely love the cast for sure. All right, Stuart. I think you know what time it is, sir.
It is time for live viewer questions.
And you could join us for live viewer questions anytime throughout the week, guys. Feel free to go ahead and always submit your questions over. Usually I'll try and drop them anytime after Thursday for you guys. Let me go ahead and pull this up. So if you want to go ahead and ever drop a question our way, just go over to our main page, which is our YouTube page, as you see right here. Click on that community tab. And again, we got ourselves a live viewer question post for you guys. It looks like we only have ourselves 6 questions here today. So we'll go ahead and get those and knock those out for you guys as quickly as we can. Jessica Friedman, which season of Power Rangers you feel should get more attention from fans? And do you think Cartoon Network could reboot Teen Titans one day? Indy, do you think they could, Cartoon Network could reboot Teen Titans one day or no?
They did. It's called Young Justice.
I mean, I guess they did, right?
Technically they didn't. I wouldn't want Teen Titans rebooted. I just want season 4 of Young Justice. Is it season 4? Maybe season 3. I just want the next season of Young Justice. And I got my Teen Titans fix on the cameos they made in Teen Titans Go. I feel like that series, that story wrapped up well enough for me. They didn't need to continue it. I feel like what they did, Young Justice is taken it to the next level.
I gotcha. And Stuart, let me get you the first half of this question. Which season of Power Rangers you feel should get more attention from fans?
Mystic Force.
Mystic Force is okay. Actually, Mystic Force. I'll go with that one just because even though it's like not my favorite season, it's definitely one of the most creative, and it's one that like not a lot of people talk about too much. Even though I feel like there's a lot of creativity in that one.
Yeah, I agree, and I think AJ, or Dino Knights, he had a huge essay about it either last week or the week before, bringing attention and awareness to Power Rangers Mystic Force.
Yeah.
Peg C, what are your thoughts on Fran Drescher's fiery speech against Hollywood studios, saying actors unions and studios failed to avert a strike, calling them disgusting for claiming they'll lose money left and right when given hundreds of millions of dollars to their CEOs? Yeah, we definitely talked about that at the top of the show. If you guys missed it, we had writer and producer James Bethea Jr. on, who's a part of the WGA, along with SAG as well, in regards to everything that's going on. Really great interview, if you ask me, and really insightful stuff. So check out the first half of the show if you'd like to, but because we've already talked about it. And we also played some of Fran's comments. I think that was only like 2 minutes, but she gave like a 5 to 6 minute speech in regards to it. That just even got me more hyped and more pissed off as to what's going on in Hollywood. That makes me want to back these guys that much more. Look, I do find it disgusting, but again, this is also, again, not just a problem for writers and actors, right? I think what Fran is trying to express is that this is taking place all over the world here, or at least here in our country for sure. That we've got corporations, that are just making hands over fist and money to where they don't even want to give you all the optics and the metrics to kind of show how they're making all this money and the viewership that's warranted on these shows. And yet they're making all this money from this stuff. And yet they don't want to give other people the proper cut. And to me, that's just extremely disgusting that you can make all this money. David Zaslav making like $200-something million a year. And again, I'm sure that's not even if that's just their base salary, I'm sure that they're probably making hands over fist other money from other things that they're working on as well. And so the fact that you can't just give up 2% of that, hell, 5% of that, and just be and just still live the lavish and privileged life that you do, and just being that much of a tightwad with your money, that's to me is just reprehensible. And the fact that it's other people's work that got you to that point that you don't want to recognize and help the little people out. It's capitalism at its worst, you know? So I'm not the biggest fan of it at all.
Yeah. Fully 100% agree.
Peg C, do you think people will still attend conventions even though fans will not be able to see their favorite actors and actresses due to the writer's strike? What do you guys think is going to happen with the San Diego Comic-Con? Is there any potential of them canceling it outright?
No, they're not going to cancel it outright because you know, it's not just about meeting other actors. There's like other things that kind of go on with it. But that being said, there are a lot of people that buy tickets from Comic-Con with the hope of upselling them, basically, because Comic-Con tickets are impossible to get. I'm actually kind of happy this is the first year they're going to get screwed over majorly, because that's not going to work for them anymore, because now Comic-Con tickets are not going to be worth what they paid for. And it also means that I think if you actually do want to go to Comic-Con, now might be the best year for you, because you might be able to get it from a third party at a reasonable price now.
I've always wanted to go to a San Diego Comic-Con, and I've never had the opportunity to do so. So one year I will definitely try to. I think my friend Michael is actually getting the opportunity to go this year. So I'll be interested to see like what he reports on just how everything's going at San Diego Comic-Con and how empty it's going to be. But what do you think, Stuart? I mean, Indy?
Well, you know what? There was a thing that Comic-Con was before it turned into the spectacle it was. And I think it's going to get back to being about comic books and stuff like that. So for me, this would be the time to go, because the people that need to get the, you know what I'm saying, direction, the illustrators, the writers, stuff like that, that need to be able to get the attention are actually going to get the attention, because we're not running, oh my God, Stephen Amell is in Hall H. And then people are taking off, you know what I'm saying, to go see that, or go see what's going on. And the people that need the attention to show their talent and stuff are always overlooked. So maybe we can get back to what it's supposed to be, instead of what it became when they decided to take it over and hijack, you know what I'm saying, the Comic-Con, and turn it into something different.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's so funny because I went to Fan Expo Dallas back in May or June. I think it might have been June sometime last month. But they got a huge hall, showroom floor you can walk on and things like that. And there's like 3 vendors in the whole place that's comic books. Just like out of all the vendors that you could possibly have there, not 5, not 10. I'm like, it is a comic book convention, isn't it? But it's very much turned into like an entertainment convention now. And so the comic book vendors, unfortunately, it's now getting extremely costly for them to even be at these conventions, which is sad. And when they are there, there's really not that many of them. So I was just going between like 3 to 4 different vendors trying to find some comic books there. But I'm just thinking to myself, like, man, I wish there was more comic book vendors for sure. But you're right, Indy, this might be a great opportunity for it to be focused back on what it originally used to be. Let's see here. Blossom, I'll come back to yours here in a second, Marcelino. Blossom, remember when Mabushina's mom's spirit was inside her old crown, talking about Kara Major series? Thought about having a ruler before her be inside it instead, since she's alive, as my counterpart, Queen Opal. I love that name, Queen Opal. What's a theme for Super Sentai do you think Toei should try? I'd like them to do art supplies as a theme, or toys, or maybe monsters. I think monsters sounds pretty good. Is there do you guys have any suggestions for Super Sentai on what themes they should probably go for going forward?
Did you have one?
Actors.
Like they're all actors?
They're all actors.
Oh, okay.
They're all actors, and like they don't know like they're superheroes because they're actors. It's like that, to me, that's the best disguise ever. You know what I'm saying? For a secret identity type thing. And then like the leader could be a person that's playing an actor on a superhero TV show about Super Sentai, except he's really, you know what I'm saying, a Super Sentai.
Really Super Sentai. Yeah, they had one of the, I think it was the Kara Major Blue. I think he was an actor. He did a lot of all his own fight scenes. I think he was a stunt man too. So that was actually kind of fun to kind of see that. But I would dig that if like all of them were. So that's a cool theme. You got one, Stuart?
Yeah, it probably would never work because it'd be way too expensive to get the license for these characters. But kind of like how, you know, with the dinosaur themed ones and the animal themed ones are all based on a different animal or dinosaur. I think it'd be fun to do that with kaijus. So you have one who's like a Godzilla Ranger, one who so it's like, you know, it's a regular like Sentai outfit, but the patterns are that of Godzilla. So maybe there's even like spikes on the back of the costume. You got one that's like Ghidorah, one that's Mothra. I think that'd be kind of a fun thing to play with, but again, it would probably be too much for licensing out those characters, so I don't see it happening.
Hasbro can afford it. I don't even want that as Sentai. Bring that here.
Here, right? Yeah, that actually
just
sounds
make
pretty
that
dope.
straight up Power Rangers.
Yeah, that sounds pretty dope to me. The most talented man alive. He's got a couple questions. Remember when in Beast Morphers, Evox was revealed to be Venjix from RPM since he was played by the same actor? Do you still see it as one of the best twists in the franchise? And does this make Beast Morphers as one of the best seasons compared to the entire Neo Saban era? Some people felt like it wasn't that good because RPM was serious while Beast Morphers was too childish. And do you prefer Dr. K and Colonel Truman's cameos better than Jason and the Dino Charge team's appearances? I will say I do enjoy Dr. K and Colonel Truman's more, just to say that out of the way. And I personally do find Beast Morphers as one of the better seasons in the entire Neo Saban era, personally. But how do you guys feel about the idea of the reveal? Do you feel like it's one of the best twists in the franchise, or do you think we've seen better?
I was blown away by this. And I liked the build up to it. It didn't seem like something that came out of nowhere. It's like they had referenced RPM quite a few times in the season. So I think that when you finally got the reveal, it actually like just totally worked. Plus, they even show that this is a season that connects to other seasons in the past. So I thought it was a great twist. And yeah, I would agree that this is definitely one of the better seasons of the Neo Saban era, even though this is technically the first Hasbro era season. You know, comparing it to the other ones, I'd say the only one that I like kind of more is Dino Charge, and that's really only the first season. Unlike Dino Charge, I think Beast Morphers actually got better, whereas Dino Charge lost its momentum. I just think Dino Charge started stronger than Beast Morphers, but it ended way weaker.
I definitely agree with you there, because there was an aspect of Dino Charge I was a really big fan of. Absolutely loved season 1, but yeah, I definitely tailed off towards the end for sure.
I'm gonna sound like an oldie, like a stuck-up old person, yo. For me, it's in space.
Get off your lawn.
Yeah, it's in space. It's the whole Andros Andromeda connection, and what happened to that to me was like one of the biggest twists. You know, and that was just that whole in space season to me is highly underrated for being one of the best seasons of Power Rangers.
I mean, I feel like a lot of people put that up there as like their numbers 1 or 2 seasons. So I definitely do think it definitely gets the recognition it certainly deserves. But I would agree with you. I think if there's any twists,
I'm talking about in the hood, Adam.
Oh, in the hood. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Mean streets.
Okay, not Twitter world. I get you.
Yeah,
I get you. He also says he does ask also about the ongoing strike, especially how it will affect movies and TV shows that have yet to come out, especially films that are about to be released. He says, example, do you think DC's Blue Beetle film will be affected at the box office, or is it safe to be released? This may not make sense, but on top of the DC being such a tarnished brand these days, could this movie even be financially successful? You know, this does feel very much like worst timing possible to kind of release this movie, especially with promotions about to stop for it. The box office itself in general, even before getting the Blue Beetle, has just not been very friendly to movies lately. So, you know, there's a part of me that wants to be hopeful and say I do think that there's going to be a large gathering and people are going to go out and support Jaime Reyes. I think there's a lot of opposing forces it has against it that it's going to have to overcome to be successful. I hope it proves everybody wrong, and it is, but I'm not hopeful. I'm not hopeful that it will at the box office. Am I tripping? You guys think it'll blast past that and
I don't
beat expectations?
I don't think people are. I think people are expecting too much to start off with. Jaime Reyes is a popular character within the fandom. You know what I'm saying? Within the geekdom, he's not somebody that people outside of the spectrum actually, you know what I'm saying, know who he is. He's not a big house name. So I think what you're going to get the base of what you were going to get anyway. One, because Xylo's a very likable, you know what I'm saying, person, and people want to see him succeed. I think a lot of the following that's coming to watch this movie is actually following him over from, you know what I'm saying, Cobra Kai, along with the fans you have of the Blue Beetle character to start off with. I think that people are thinking about this the wrong way. When this movie comes out, I think there's going to be nothing else to see. A lot of shows are, you know what I'm saying, seasons are already over. A lot of shows season getting pushed back because of filming. A lot of movies getting pushed back. So it actually might help it increase a little bit in my hopes, because what else is there going to be able to do other than go see Blue Beetle? You know what I'm saying? Because there's not going to be a lot, you know, a lot else going on. So I'm honestly thinking you're going to see an uptick in the box office rather than, you know what I'm saying, a downtick, because there's nothing on television right now, and most of the stuff on Netflix is boo-boo.
Yeah, I guess it depends on, like, I don't know what else is releasing around it, but yeah, I mean, if it's like the only movie that's out there in the box office worth seeing, and it doesn't have to worry about other films cannibalizing themselves, maybe there is potential here. What do you think, Stuart?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I do crap. What day again does Blue Beetle get released? Is it next month?
I believe it's August, but I could be wrong. Blue
'Cause
Beetle
if it's-
release date August 18th.
Okay, because yeah, I feel like if they waited just a couple more months, this movie would actually do a little bit better, because pretty soon there's not going to be a lot of blockbusters to watch. So like the big budget movies are going to be like kind of fading from theaters, and I think that would have been a good time to release it. But unfortunately, I think this is coming out the same month we have a few other big movies coming out. So it may not do great. I don't think it's going to do as bad as The Flash, especially because this movie didn't have a budget anywhere near as big as The Flash. So it just literally, if it has the Flash's numbers, it'll look good. Basically, if it has a little more than the Flash's numbers, it'll look even better. Because again, this wasn't an expensive movie to produce, so it doesn't need to sell that much to make back its money. So I'm not super worried about this movie's success as other people are. I think it's going to do just fine. If nothing else, it's not going to do like groundbreaking numbers, but I do think it's going to be, you know, moderately successful.
And there's definitely hope there, because the budget is $120 million right now, according to them. Nothing compared to like $295 million of that of an Indiana Jones movie, or 200 plus for Flash. So they definitely have given themselves some room for being successful here. So yeah, I might be proven wrong. This movie might do financially pretty well. So we'll see what happens come August.
Let's see, the biggest movies you have coming out in August: Equalizer 3, Ninja Turtles.
Oh, when's that come out?
The Ninja Turtles, I believe, is afterwards.
Okay.
Meg 2 and The Passenger. So it really doesn't have that much competition. And I feel like the same people that are going to go see, you know what I'm saying, the new Ninja Turtle movie are the same people that are going to be saying, you know what I'm saying, Blue Beetle. So double feature theaters will be a smart thing to do with those two movies. So I don't think it has that much, you know what I'm saying, competition, because I think the real big hitters don't hit until what, September and October.
Well, the two real big hitters are coming next week. Barbie and Oppenheimer, because at our theater those are both sold out. Like, holy crap, people are double featuring these movies, and those are going to do huge.
Yeah, I got my Oppenheimer ticket already for IMAX 70 millimeter. So nice. I am looking forward to seeing that, and I got to figure out a date night for the girlfriend and I to go check out Barbie. But yeah,
I still think those are like two different fan bases. Maybe Barbie, you know what I'm saying, will have the same fan base, but nobody's taking a kid to go see Oppenheimer. You know what I'm saying? So like,
I've heard it's like a horror movie.
Yeah, I really feel like Ninja Turtles and Blue Beetle should do very well, especially with the budgets that they had.
Yeah, and I think the budgets will definitely help them out for sure. We did have Dino Knights here, but he's got like a whole book that
Jeez
he's
Louise,
that
bro.
he's written on Once and Always. So, yeah, I'm not gonna go through all that Dino Knight, unfortunately. I don't mind a paragraph, but that's the longest run on paragraph I've seen in a long time.
Bro, that's a 1-page essay.
That's a 1-page essay. So if you can, shrink that down for next week, possibly, then maybe we'll go ahead and go over it. But yeah, because I still want to get to one more question here, Dino Knight.
It does look like it's just his overall thoughts on Once and Always, watching it 50 times, and giving it 100 out of 100.
Out of 100.
I will say that, yeah, I really enjoyed it's definitely the best anniversary that we've had, and it's one that I've seen. I think I've seen it 3 times, and I do plan on seeing it a 4th time next time I'm with my siblings, because they still haven't seen it, and they grew up on Mighty Morphin.
Morphin.
Definitely look forward to watching it with them.
Question: what is fridging?
We'll definitely get to that. But if you want to give him the definition or something like that.
So it kind of comes from Green Lantern, when Green Lantern found his wife chopped up in his refrigerator. And it basically kind of comes down to characters whose only purpose is to die so that another character can have character development.
Yeah,
like pushing the main character forward type of thing, right?
Yeah.
But what if the main character didn't care? No, go ahead. We'll get
then I guess that's not fridging. That's just killing off a character with no point.
Marcelino's question, one of his questions is, what are some of the worst examples of fridging you've ever seen on TV or film?
Tara from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, okay. It wasn't, when I was thinking of fridging, the first thing that came to mind for me not only was the Kyle Reiner Green Lantern. I know he says TV and film, but I also think of Sue Dibney from was the Infinity Crisis, the elongated man's wife being killed. I kind of very much look at that as a plot device of killing somebody off in order to move that character's plot forward or something like that.
Yamcha, Krillin, Itachi.
Is fridging usually referred to as like death of women, though, Stuart? Like usually a female character's death?
Usually that's where it kind of started, but now I feel like the term's been used so much that I feel like now it's okay to use it for guys as well.
Well, we'll get that. If y'all want to see how I feel about that, watch Sunday Dinner tonight. I'm not gonna make those comments on here.
But yeah, fridging in TV, or like a female character or a character that's like sole purpose was just to be there to be killed off. So then when he does bring up a question like Maria Hill's death in Secret Invasion, does that feel like fridging to you or no?
In the context of Secret Invasion, yes. In the context of the overall MCU, no.
I get you.
I don't think
she's been developed plenty, I feel like.
I think that's the issue. I don't think when you're watching Secret Invasion, you could take it as the scope of just that series, because Secret Invasion is the influx, as with the reveal that we had with Rhodey, of what's happened through the entire MCU. So I don't think that's it. And if you think about it, it's not just character development of Nick Fury, but Gravik pulling that trigger, you know what I'm saying, knowing as Nick Fury, knowing what it was going to do. It wasn't just a setup for character, but that was his out, just in case Fury came for him trying to say his scroll. Oh no, they'll think that you did this. Like it was a plan to that for the bad guy, not just to have character development in a good guy. It was all part of his plan in order to cover his tracks up, in order to keep Fury down. So now if it was Fury's wife, the scroll that was brought in and died, you know what I'm saying, just for character development, because we're just being introduced to her on screen, I feel that would have been fridging. But I think they did it on purpose, not for her to be killed, not to have them kill each other, just for that purpose. They, you know what I'm saying, they let her live. So I think I can see where people might say, if they haven't experienced Maria Hill's development, not through the entire MCU, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., through all the Marvel movies and stuff she was in, You know what I'm saying? Everything like that, the video games, the comics and stuff that character was specifically in. I can understand how you would seem it that way, but nah, there's a bigger thing going on when it comes to that.
If I had to make a suggestion, and I am curious to know your guys' thoughts, because this character came to mind, and then when I thought about it, I kept thinking to myself, well, I don't know if it was to push the plot forward so much, but maybe it was. But I think of John Wick
I was just finna say that.
in the sense that we get introduced to his wife very much in like flashbacks and moments. We know she dies kind of off screen, but we see that she dies, and John Wick is moved by that. But it's really the gift of the puppy, the killing of the dog, right? That's all connected to his wife that really kind of gets him out of bed and really pushes him to exact revenge. So there's a part of me that's like, I kind of view the wife or maybe the dog as Fritching in that sense.
Was it a female dog?
That I don't
No
know.
idea.
I have no idea,
No.
but yeah.
Okay.
But I was just thinking of John Wick's wife and the dog from the movie
Yes.
in the sense of it based off of that alone.
Yes. Or what was the movie Vin Diesel was in where his wife died, got killed?
Which one?
Or whatever. The one where
Was it Flex? No.
no, was it Vin? It was Vin Diesel, wasn't it? Where he caught the dude in the attic and he was like, your reflexes too slow when he was talking to the dude.
I don't remember.
They push a metric ton. You know what I'm saying? Real characters push a metric ton. Maybe that wasn't Vin Diesel.
I can't remember,
Yeah,
bro.
I can't remember.
But I would say John Wick then, if but I would be curious to see if Marcelino even considers that Phrygian or not. And then his last portion of the question here, and this will be our last question for the day. When promoting her upcoming film, Gal Gadot expressed her thoughts on the recent Indiana Jones film. This is the quote. It says, I wanted to show a great story about a female character who is doing it in the action genre. Right? She's thriving, but at the same time, how many times have they just switched genders? They take a story that is all about the men and they just change it to a woman and then they go shoot it. To me, it was so important in the DNA to make, I guess, her upcoming movie, Heart of Stone, a little different because men and women are different. They're built differently. They operate differently. And that's the quote. The question goes on to say, many people have now been praising Gal Gadot for fighting back against the woke Hollywood and how female action heroes are depicted. They say that their problems are that Hollywood has been making female action heroines act like if they're men, strong, brave, and resolute, but without any of the intrinsic qualities that make women women. They also are tired of seeing rail-thin actresses beat up men twice their size. They've even used Sigourney Weaver's character from when she saved the day multiple times in the Alien franchise. It says, you never forgot that she was a woman during Aliens. The character's maternal instincts made the 1986 film one of the best sequels in female history. And he also gives us a link to the article itself here. So let's dive into this a little bit. I'm going to I do want to real quick before you start those, Stuart. I do want to bring up this article because I want to see what this article is stating. You guys mind if I do that real quick?
Go for it.
So the article that he links us to. So let's look at the quote in general and see what they're talking about here. So this comes to us from this website, Hollywood in Toto. The right take on entertainment. Okay, so that immediately makes me think, all right, we dealing with like a right-wing article here. Gal Gadot blasts gender-swapping action heroines. And let's see what she's actually talking about. First off, because I've looked at this article ahead of time already. But first off, the very first sentence that comes out of this person's mouth. If Kathleen Kennedy has her way, Phoebe Waller-Bridge will be cracking Indy's whip sooner rather than later. They just can't help themselves. They gotta bring Kathleen Kennedy's name into it. The Disney executive teased a new Indiana Jones adventure starring the Fleabag alumni who emasculates Harrison Ford's character in the 5th film out June 30th. So mind you, the person is claiming that Phoebe Waller-Bridge emasculates Harrison Ford's character out June 30th when he wrote this article 3 weeks ago. So before the movie even came out, he's already making assumptions about what Indiana Jones is about. It's what the movie geeks feared since they got their first glimpse of Indiana Jones, another gen swapped icon in the grand woke tradition, is what he says. Now, one of Hollywood's biggest stars is speaking out about the gender swapping action heroines, and she might have to fend off the woke mob as a result. It says, considering the fact that she's played Wonder Woman in multiple films, she's also got her hands dirty in Fast and the Furious film, and now she's doing her upcoming streaming film, Heart of Stone. It says the actress told Total Film that while she loves being an action star, she prefers playing original characters than recycling existing IPs. That's kind of a way of saying she'd rather not watch Waller-Bridge take a franchise baton from Ford. I don't think that's what she's saying at all, but let's see what she says. And again, I just read that quote to you. I wanted to show a great story about female characters who is doing it in the action genre, right? She is thriving, but at the same time, how many times have they just switched genders? They take a story that's all about men and they change it to a woman and then go shoot it. To me, it was so important in the DNA to make Heart of Stone a little bit different because men and women are different. They're built differently. And he says, she's right. But it's a lesson Hollywood keeps ignoring. Too many female action heroines act as if they're men. Brave, strong, resolute, but without any of the intrinsic qualities that make women women. And it says, and we're even told the next James Bond must be a woman. And then he brings up the Sigourney Weaver character, yada, yada, yada. Any thoughts, guys? Any thoughts?
This dude's an idiot.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, I mean, I'm kidding. I mean, look, go ahead. Go ahead. If anybody wants to speak first.
I'm gonna be honest with you. It's stupid because we've been in this world where a lot of women can do anything that a man can do. I want him to stand in the octagon with Ronda Rousey or somebody like that, and then, you know what I'm saying, tell them that they can't be strong, and you know what I'm saying, that they can't play a same role, you know what I'm saying, as James Bond because of their because they're female. I would it just, this doesn't, for some reason, like the whole time you're reading the article, like I'm getting mad.
Yeah.
Like I feel like almost like he tricked Gal Gadot into, you know what I'm saying, sideways agreeing with him, you know, because of her portrayal of her movie. Like, I understand what she's trying to do in the movie. She wants to make a action role movie or a movie where somebody where the woman is more feminine and makes decisions as a woman would. But I'm sorry, a lot of these movies where action moves the woman in, if they're trained from some time to ignore their you know what I'm saying, that, and to be that action hero, it would seem weird to me for them to make a feminine choice, like, oh, there's a baby cat, let me stop, save it, rehome it for $40, you know what I'm saying, and go get it shot. It just doesn't make any, you know what I'm saying, sense to me.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned the idea that he, you know, tricked Gal Gadot into answering this way. Let me just point out real quick, when you look at the article, so it says the actress told Total Film that she loves being an action star. And then the guy suggests that's kind of a way of saying that she's rather not watch Waller-Bridge take the franchise baton. So let's look at, again, because I always say, follow the source. If this guy got his information of what Gal Gadot was saying about Indiana Jones from Total Film, let's follow the source, okay? So I'm going to pull up the actual article in which she sat down to do the interview, okay? So this is from MovieWeb. Heart of Stone star Gal Gadot rallies against Hollywood's obsession for gender-swapping male characters. So let me see if I can pull it in. Speaking with Total Film ahead of the action release, Gadot addresses the way Hollywood is constantly taking male movie characters and gender swapping them without thinking about how characters should be played differently beyond just their gender. She said of Heart and Stone, there's nothing in this article or this quote that states the fact that she's got a problem with what Phoebe Waller-Bridge is doing at all. He's literally taking her comments about her character, how it's played in The Heart of Stone, and nowhere in this MovieWeb article do they ask her the question, hey, by the way, Phoebe Waller-Bridge in the new Indiana Jones, how do you feel about that? She doesn't even address that. So this gentleman is literally taking a quote that she's talking about in regards to her character from Heart of Stone, and he's placing it on top of his own insecurities about the idea of gender swapping and utilizing it to go ahead and shut down this idea and notion of Phoebe Waller-Bridge. It's to get you, if you thought you were mad, look, God, it pissed me off just seeing how they twist people's words.
I'm sorry, Stuart, because I know you had something to say.
I know he's got.
I got a lot.
Yeah.
But
This has me. One, I'm upset by what he was saying. Two, I'm upset because I don't think he knows the definition of what gender swap is.
Yeah.
They did not take Indiana Jones and turn Indiana Jones into a female character, and then it's still Indiana Jones. No, this is a totally new character that's developing into something that is being co-signed by Indiana Jones. It's not like where we have some comic book characters that come, you know what I'm saying, come to the screen and we go, oh, this character was male, but we're gonna make a female, similar to Captain Marvel. You know what I'm saying? The characters in there that we had that were male and they turned to female to, you know what I'm saying, push the storyline along. That's gender swap. What he's talking about isn't gender swap. There being a female 007 isn't gender swap. 007 is insignia. It's a standard. There's been plenty 007s. It's just that you reach the rank of 007. Like, I don't understand people like this that are just upset when they're sitting at home on their fat butts out of shape, complaining that a woman who is out working them is getting, you know what I'm saying, these type of roles or these capabilities. Get your fat butt up and go do it yourself. You don't want a woman to take your place. You see what I'm saying? Like, if she's out working you, there's something wrong with you that she's taking the roles that they're standing up. Women make majority of this world, so they deserve to have some type of representation for themselves, just like minorities should have representation in them. If you ask me, women who are majority of this world are in the worst minority ever when it's looked at and how they do, because they're looked at like this, like they can't do this, they can't do that. A woman can't play this role. Women can't. No, they can do everything we can do and more. Until you can sit in a friggin' hospital and push a human being out your body, you know what I'm saying, for hours on time and deal with that pain and that struggle. I don't want to hear nothing you could say, because every man will sit in that same position and fold and can't handle it.
I do want to take those cramp tests, or those, like, what do they call it?
No, you
Contraction
don't.
tests. I want to try it.
No, you don't.
I want to try it,
guys. Yeah.
No, you don't. No, you don't. I made it to level 3 and it changed my life. I think
that's what I want to see. Like, I want to see I want to see the level I can get to.
There is no pain, yo. There is no pain like that in the world. And no, you don't. And that's why when you look at a woman and their femininity and the woman body and everything like that, to me, they will always be stronger than what a man will be, because they can handle that, you know what I'm saying, and a man can't. So it's like, come on, bro, grow up. He's looking for clickbait, you know what I'm saying. He wants people to click. I hate people who do this. That's not newsworthy. You're not a journalist. Go sit down and shut the fuck up, period.
Yeah.
What about you, Stuart? He's very passionate from Indy, but I'm curious to know your thoughts also.
I'm with Indy. Everything
now that you've seen how this plays out.
Yeah, I'm with Indy. Everything about this article pisses me off. You know, and I think like the biggest thing that I've been hearing a lot when it comes to like arguments is, oh, why are women always being written like men characters, that kind of thing. And it's just like, okay, I really hate like how much we keep trying to push like, oh, if it's a woman character, they have to act like this. If it's a man character, they have to act like this. Everyone is fucking different. All right. It doesn't matter like your gender, your ethnicity, nothing. Everyone is an individual person and is different. So trying to say that a character shouldn't be a certain way because they are a woman or a man, I freaking hate that argument so much. But as for the article itself, when they're trying to say that they're sick of all the gender swapping and they use Indiana Jones of all movies as the example, did they not see the fucking movie? There was nothing to indicate that this is a, you know, full on passing the torch movie. Yes, the trailers kind of made me think that's what they were doing. But when you watch the movie itself, you know, in the previous Indiana Jones movie, you had a scene where Shia LaBeouf almost put on the hat, and Indiana Jones stops him and says, "Not yet." All right, this character, I totally forgot her name in the movie.
Helena Shaw.
Helena. She doesn't even get that. All right. There is nothing that she says in this movie to imply that she wants to, take up the mantle of Indiana Jones. If she does get her spinoff movie, which I'm sure, will happen, because it looked like she had a lot of fun playing this character, and I could definitely see her character continue to grow in future installments. I don't see her, donning the whip and the hat, maybe just the whip, but I don't see her stealing the Indiana Jones look and just being Indiana Jones, but woman. No, I see her doing her own thing in the Indiana Jones franchise or in that universe.
If I'm a woman in that universe, screw a whip, give me a gun.
Exactly. How many times has Indiana Jones brought a whip to a gunfight and it didn't work out? So yeah, no, I think I'm on board with both of you. Everything about this article is so stupid. It's basically just him hearing what he wants to hear rather than what actually people are saying, especially the way he just completely twisted Gal Gadot's words and just, try to act like, oh, see, she's also against woke Hollywood. Like, where did you get that? Because nothing in that article suggested like she was trying to even acknowledge woke Hollywood or anything like that.
Nothing in any interview or anything that she has suggested that. In any of the Wonder Woman interviews or anything like that has ever suggested anything like that. I mean, women can't play these roles and still be, feminine some at the same time. Or Underworld Evolution, Tomb Raider.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want a 1-to-1 Tomb Raider Indiana Jones, like, you know what I'm saying? Come on, the Tomb Raider franchise might do it a little better.
Yeah, and which, mind you, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is now going to be at least the showrunner for a Tomb Raider series over on Amazon.
Yeah.
So this is just adding to all that experience for her. And look, Gal Gadot may have issues with the idea of gender swapping characters, but she's definitely not referring to the Indiana Jones movie or James Bond. It's not like the next James Bond is like Jamila Bond, or Jamie Bond. Like, no, it's going to be a new 007, somebody that has that moniker, but is not a James Bond. Same thing with Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character. She's got a name, guys. It's Helena Shaw. Her name's not Indiana Jones. She's Indiana Jones's goddaughter, right? So she's not coming in to be like, oh, call me Indiana Jones. No, that's not what's happening.
It makes all the sense in the world, bro. It does. That somebody who's in his family, you know what I'm saying, would pick up the baton or pick up the mantle and what's going on. It's good. It's easy storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely easy storytelling. And Harrison Ford has mentioned, look, there's not going to be any more Indiana Jones without me. Kathleen Kennedy has come out and said that they have no plans on doing more Indiana Jones movies without Harrison Ford. I think they had a Indiana Jones TV series in production, but I think that might have gotten pushed to the side. So I don't really know how they're going to be filling that void, but I highly doubt it's Phoebe Waller-Bridge as Indiana Jones now all of a sudden. And so, yeah, I totally agree with you guys. It's, I get the idea, though, of maybe what Gal Gadot is saying in the sense that maybe you have written a script that has all male like concepts in it. And then you think to yourself, oh, you know what? This should actually be a female. I actually read somewhere that, and maybe I could be wrong on this, but I thought I read somewhere that originally, I don't want to say George Lucas's script for Star Wars was female, because I don't think that's the case. I think it was in fact male all along. But regardless, I'm sure there probably are some instances in Hollywood where a movie has been written to be led by a male, and then they've just decided, hey, we're just going to throw a female in there, but then not change any of the other qualities that maybe come with her later down the road. That is not the same thing as gender swapping action heroines, though, unfortunately. And if anything, let me just say this real quick. The fact alone, okay, and I think what boiled my blood more than anything is the fact that when we go in here and it says, too many female actual heroines act as if they're men, strong, brave, and resolute. Like a woman can't be any of those things. Fuck you, bro. Fuck you. That is the
Facts.
dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. And then he wants to use Ellen Ripley, Sigourney Weaver, as you never forget she was a woman, though, especially during Aliens. The character's maternal instincts made the 1986 film one of the best sequels. And you think her maternal instincts made that movie great? What about Alien? You know, the first movie where she literally single-handedly handled all these, but he wants to go to
The sequel.
maternal instincts, guys. That's what defines you as a woman. Your maternal instincts. You can't be strong, brave, and red. It is the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. And shame on him for using somebody else's quote to try and get his point across when that certainly wasn't the case.
He must hate Doctor Who.
It just makes my blood boil, man, that we have people out there. And the problem is that they have such a voice, right? This guy made this article before the movie even came out, before he even saw it. And you don't think people read this article and thought to themselves, fuck going to see Indiana Jones. I don't want to see that movie, instead of letting the movie speak for itself. It's a shame, bro. It's a shame. It's disgusting.
Look, I didn't even see the trailers or nothing like that. And I was like, fuck going to see Indiana Jones. Like, if I would have read his article, he would have made me go see it just to spite him.
Just to spite him. Great question, Marceline. I'm glad you brought that to our attention. But I think, again, it goes to show, one, follow the source. If somebody is saying, hey, this person's quoting this and they have a link to the source, follow the source to see exactly what they're talking about. And some of this stuff is just disgusting, honestly. Just the mindset that some people have. But, we're all equals, man. And if anybody tells you anything differently, they deserve a good slap across the face. But anyway, but thank you guys for sharing that with me and hearing your thoughts on it. I'm glad we're all on the same page.
Bro, what's his name? I'm finna blast him on Twitter.
I don't remember. I got to pull up the article. If you want to find the article,
I don't even want to click on the article. Like, I don't even want to give him the benefit of the doubt to give him another view.
I feel you. I just wanted to prove a point, though. That's all. All right. But other than that, guys, that will do it for our show today. I just wanted to wrap up on that one. I thought that I think he had that question last week, and then I think it was just me. I don't remember if it was just me solo or not, but
Xena Warrior Princess. I mean, come on, man. Like, all these wonderful action heroine TV shows and movies are starting to pop in my head, and like, it's just making me dislike him more.
It is funny because I'm going to just assume that this dude probably doesn't like Captain Marvel, and I would say that Captain Marvel has a lot more feminine traits than Ridley Scott that's the director, than the main character from Alien. So it's just what it just kind of comes down to is, like, I think a lot of times these are written by people that just miss the movies of the good old days, and so they can't figure out like an actual good like complaint about why they don't like modern movies. They just know that they don't like them, so they stick to the word woke because it's the easiest word you can use to critique a movie, because you don't have to actually think of a real critique. You just have to say woke. That's why it sucks.
Critical thinking is gone these days.
But a movie like A League of Their Own won't even be in his top 20.
It's a great film. Absolutely great film.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh, check it out. Tom Hanks, A League of Their Own.
Yeah. A League of Their Own is so good.
Are you a baseball guy or not really?
Not really, but I'll still watch a baseball movie. I love sports movies in general, even if it's a sport that I don't follow.
It's a great one. There's a cast in that movie too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But other than that, guys, I think that will wrap it up for us here. Most talented man in the world. We did get to your question, just so you know. It was the question just before last, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely check out the live viewer questions portion. But that will do it for us. And I apologize, guys, that we ran a little bit long today, but we had some amazing topics, some great points of view that we wanted to share with you guys today. And you can certainly expect us back next Sunday for another live episode of A+ Hero Report. Indy, if people want to find you on social media, where can they find you, sir?
Don't find me on social media right now. Go find James Worthy, James with a Y, Jaymes Worthy. He has amazing caps and shirts, locally owned. Just go check it out.
Do you have any music coming out? Any performances?
Oh yeah, August 5th, Hobart, Indiana, at the Hobart Art Theater, Underground Music Fest 3. I think it's 3. might be 4, 3. Come check it out. It's a cast of characters that are going to be there. And yes, we'll be doing Blood and Guts Wednesday. So I'm down with that. Since
Awesome.
I'm off for a change. Yeah, but you guys should know by now where to find me. It doesn't matter if you can't find me on my social media, because you can find me right here at A+ Opinions.
And he just dropped the episode 4 review for Secret Invasion on the channel. So go ahead and check it out as well. Stuart, if people want to find you on social media, where can they find you, sir?
You guys, my thing is gone. You guys can find me at TurboStew01 over on Twitter and on Instagram.
And he also just dropped 2 new reviews, Strange New Worlds from Star Trek episode 4.
Mm-hmm. Or episode 5, yeah.
Episode 5 dropped, and he also dropped My Adventures with Superman episode 3 for you guys this week. So definitely go ahead and check it out as well. And if you want to follow us on social media, right up here at A+ Opinions, very active over on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, which is our main hub. That's where we post all of our news and articles, posters, and trailers throughout the week for you guys to stay up to date with. If you want to follow us on the new social media app Threads, you can certainly do so as well at A+ Opinions. So thank you very much for doing that. Other than that, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up for us here today. But other than that, we'll see you guys next week, next Sunday. But in the meantime, do us a big favor, as always. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.